Hi, folks. Welcome. I'm Dan McDermott. This is Google Plus Week for July 27th, 2012. We're starting our second year of Google Plus Week, and I guess our first topic, I don't have a fancy intro because of our first topic. We had a wonderful conversation with Google Senior Vice President Vik Gundotra about an hour and a half ago, and I had a lot of fun. Alan Furstenberg interviewed him with me, and virtually held my hand through the process. We've been planning this for quite some time. I joked with Vik before we went live that, to paraphrase J.K. Rowling when she was talking about having to speak at the commencement at Harvard, that the days of nervous anticipation had caused me to lose weight, because this was, you know, I wanted to make sure we did a good job. I think we did okay. What are your thoughts? What did you learn, Alan? And then we'll get the room's perception. What did you learn from Vik Gundotra that you didn't already know, other than he's as nice in a private hangout as he appears to be in
before I answer that, Dan, I got to tell you, when you first sent me the message saying, "Hey, Alan, I think I lined up Vik Gundotra for the anniversary show. Do you want to be on it?" And I'm just like, "Are you kidding me?" Of course. What kind of question is that? So that was, I mean, that was fun. You know, it really was fun. And I think in a lot of ways that really shows one of the cool things about Hangouts in general is that you can have this nice casual environment of talking to people, of interviewing them, of having a nice exchange, questions and answers in a nice informal context. So, you know, that was fun. It was great. What did I learn? It's a good question. I think one of the things that I learned a little bit about how he sees Google Plus and Google itself. He had an answer in there, I think, to one of the early questions about the social layer, and he kind of said it's the social layer, but it's also a destination. And I think that's kind of a different perspective than we've really heard him say before. He said, Google Plus is the social layer, and I think he's now realizing, well, hey, maybe it's more than just the social layer. It's more than just this integration. There are parts of it that are also unique and distinct and important on their own. So that was kind of an interesting take on it. I think some of our questions about trying to make it more personal. How did he see this? How does he use it? How does he and his family work with these things? I think those were good and insightful questions and answers.
It was interesting because you have said in the past, you've talked about how you use Google Plus a lot privately with your family members and friends, that you do post a lot publicly, but you also use it privately, and others. And he talked about the same thing, and how that is, I think, didn't he say over half of the posts?
I think he said, if I remember correctly, he said that over half the posts that are currently on the system are private posts. And I don't think that's a number that we've heard before. I mean, I'd love to hear actual numbers, but just that off-the-cuff analysis was, I don't think, something we've heard before. He said, a lot of our posts are private, so we know the numbers that other groups are coming out with are inaccurate. But he actually said half this time. And I think he said the vast majority of the posts that he makes are private posts. So that was interesting and insightful.
I thought so as well. So let's get some other takes. Who saw, I guess, Craig, you're going to beat us up. My grouchy friend, who I respect so much. You thought we were a little easy on Vik.
Well, I thought it was a great interview. I said earlier that combined with the Google Fiber announcement, this just kind of piles on that, and we're seeing a little more of this Google vision, a little more of where they're headed with all of this, and I'm really excited. I'm more excited now than I have been for the whole first year of Google Plus, and I think that it would be great if you could get him or another engineer back relatively soon and do some follow-up questions. I think it's great that you've opened this dialogue, and I'm just looking forward to a lot more. I think there could have been a few pointed questions in there, but I think you got some valuable information, and you've buttressed what we kind of already knew, but now we have an even clearer vision of where I think we all hope this is all going.
You have you do a show called Pageant Live. I think, what's the URL for that? PageantLive.com. There's a
Yep.
softball question.
Yep.
And that is not what I would call a group of the standard, typical Google Plus users, male, tech-centric, because I've met them and they're wonderful, but they're not geeks and they're not men, obviously. So you have brought many of them onto Google Plus, and the lure was the Hangout killer feature, and
Yep.
I wonder how much. At what point are we going to reach a tipping point where, because of those currently unique and cool features like Hangouts, you're going to get people like that on, and they're going to get their friends to join who may not have otherwise joined prior to this, and you're going to sort of begin to see that more of your local regular folks are on. What do you think?
Well, I'll tell you, it's very interesting that you mentioned that, because I sent links to the Google Fiber announcement and your interview. As soon as your interview was over and it was processed, I sent links to Pam and Paige. Those are the two that are really behind the Pageant Live show, and said these are must watch. You need to watch both of these because this is where we're headed with all of this. And I think the more they see that Google Plus is the comer and is going to be the place to be, and has a lot of tools that are very valuable. I think they're really going to like when he talked about privacy and the circles and sharing with your family and all that. He did a beautiful job of explaining that. And when people start waking up that have been using other services, and I'll say it, Facebook, when they start waking up and they start seeing how powerful Google Plus can be, then and there's one other thing that has to happen. Some of the rough edges of getting people into Google Plus and getting them into a Hangout and so forth need to be smoothed out. But when these things happen, and I think they're going to happen, we're going to see a stampede to Google Plus. And I think it's going to be okay. I'm looking forward to it. I have no problem with welcoming the masses.
Okay. Alan,
go
ahead.
I agree with you absolutely. I mean, I think in order for Google Plus to really succeed, to really be what they want, Google Plus needs to get a lot more people. And it's clear that Vic says they think they're going to get a lot more people. And your point about a better new user experience, this is I know it's one of your big points. It's one of my big points. It's, a lot of us have it. That was one of my questions that we never got to. And it was one that I did, it was one of the ones that I had highlighted to get to, and we never got to it. And it's easy for me right now to say, oh man, I wanted to do that question, I wanted this question, and this would have been a great question. We just couldn't do it. I wish we could.
Okay, let me go. Jeff, did you watch any of the interview?
Yeah, I did. And first of all, congratulations to you and Alan for actually pulling it off. That was just amazing. So you guys get a big round of applause for doing that for the anniversary show. That's number one. Number two is I think you opened the door for future interviews with high-level Google Plus engineers or staffers or Vic himself, because they acknowledge that your show is a wonderful platform for them to get the message out a little bit.
I feel like
thought
Bill
that was
O'Reilly
nice.
has this chorus on just praising him. I don't want to.
No, I thought
I
it. No,
appreciate it. Yeah, but I don't know. We gave him a real grilling, Jeff. I
know,
if
but
anyone would be afraid. Come on now.
Not so many tough
but
questions.
Here's the deal. Here's the deal. The door is open. You made it comfortable. The next time you have them again, it could be even a little bit more meatier. And it's a process, and you started the process. So I thought it was a wonderful interview. Yes, he got his talking points out like he always kind of does, and there was no late breaking news. Just a couple things that you guys already talked about. But all in all, it was just a wonderful little show for him. I thought he did a great job. I thought you guys did a great job. So yeah, I'm giving you the big thumbs up.
Anything surprise you about it, Jeff? Or did you learn anything new, or any interesting tidbits?
One what I learned more about his personality than anything else. You know, how casual he can be. He seems very approachable, and he seems to be very at ease in his position. So I thought he handled everything. You know, like I could sit down and have a cup of coffee with this guy and kind of talk. You know, he wasn't talking down. He wasn't talking the obvious. Well, he was talking about the obvious, but you know, I think
he was cool.
He was cool. I mean, I could have a drink with him.
We first went in there, and he was in his office at Google HQ in Mountain View, and he was just really sociable in the beginning before we went live and afterward. We had the benefit of chatting with him privately before and after, and he was just cool. Yeah, like it'd be fun to go to a Starbucks and have a cup of coffee with, and his chief of staff was just off camera. I don't know if he was at a computer thing or copier or what he was doing, but it was just neat. He was just real sociable from the beginning. He's like, "Hey, Dan, how you doing?" You know, and he's interacted with me before, but it's the first hangout I've done with him. And I think that it's neat that he got to do a hangout and he survived, and I hope he does more because he hasn't done a lot of these types of things, and I think it's I don't know. It was just cool that he agreed to do it. It was our anniversary night, you know, and so I'm just excited. It was great. It was fun, and hopefully, you know, these guys will do more. So let me get Michael. Did you get a chance to see it? Do you have any thoughts?
I did, and Alan took most of my thoughts, unfortunately. Like, yeah, I liked how he said Google Plus was like a unified layer across all Google products, and you know, he made the reference to them using your real name in YouTube, having that option to integrate with Google Plus. And like, I remember a lot of other engineers that work on Google Plus, they're like, it's not really a social network, although it is, but it's really just Google. It's part of Google, and it's part of the main body, the main beast. But you know, Vic's an awesome guy. I was able to get in a hangout with him earlier this week. He actually does like these random public hangouts every so often. I was lucky to get in there with him.
How was that? What did he talk about in there?
In there, he wanted really, like, I guess, like a feedback to hear what everyone thinks about other things. The main focus was events. He wanted to know how people were using events and, you know, what was it missing, stuff like that. Just getting an overall overview of events.
Okay. Well, let me. Did you catch any of it, Pam?
Oh, sure. I caught the whole thing. It was great.
Any thoughts?
Yeah.
Did anything surprise you or interest you, or what'd you think about what Vic
nothing
said?
surprised me. Nothing surprised me because you asked the kitten questions, but you know.
I thought we really pushed him against the wall and slapped him around a little bit. What are you talking about, Pam? We're newsmen here.
I mean, you asked one question about access to on air, and you know, lumping all those countries in there. You know, Vietnam has very different rules and laws than Germany, for example. I mean, but he, you know, he at least answered the question the best he could, because I'm sure he's not, you know, up on all those laws and everything. So yeah, you asked a question or two that could be seen as anti, you know, maybe a little sort of not fanboy.
It was a fair question because that's a constant issue.
Well,
Robert Rettel. I asked folks to put questions up, and Robert Rettel in Vienna, great guy and a friend of the show. He posted the question. I just thought it was funny because he listed all these countries.
Yeah.
And it was, you know, I told Vic, I said, you're gonna love this one, you know. But this was an anniversary thing. This wasn't like there was a big scandal or something.
Right. You weren't being Geraldo Rivera, you know, opening the vault, you know. So I get, you know, I get it. But I was really surprised with how expressive he was. He's expressive like Alan is expressive, you know, and I like that. It was.
I was going to say, is that a compliment or not? Wait a minute.
Oh, it absolutely is. It absolutely is. I mean, your face lights up when you talk, and that's always. You actually look a lot more comfortable than you are in front of the camera, but Vic looks like he lives there. You know, he was very. it was good. It was really good. It was much better than having, Mr. Monotone on there. So yeah, I like that.
Okay, and I don't know, Sariq, did you catch any of it?
I think I got in just like 2 minutes after you guys started, but I caught most of it. I really wanted to know what's the inside scoop on how you landed it.
And I imagine you do. No, I just asked him, and he said he'd love to do it. So
You directly asked him on Google Plus?
yeah, I just did a private plus mention and asked him if he'd do it. And because he's circled me, and we circle each other, and he's interacted with my stuff, and he's seen the show before, and he's interacted on my post before, and I just I just said it's our anniversary issue. Let's talk. Let's talk about. I've been doing it. I mean, we've been doing this long enough to where it's a fairly professional environment. It's not a. He knew it was going to be a hit job, I guess. But I'm flattered that he did it, and it was interesting to me, and it was fun, and scary, and all those things. So okay, and Alan, I really appreciate.
One more thing. Why was his chief of staff around?
He was in the office.
PR.
He was in this big office. He was off camera. Nice guy. He waved to us in the beginning, and then I got Vic to frame his shot a little bit. So he'd look.
The shot was really good. Vic to the side instead of sitting in the center. That looked really good.
He wasn't quite as relaxed as you are, Sariq. But you're like sometimes lying down on the couch, or you probably.
Well, I'm not heading Google social efforts. So I can afford to be relaxed.
Indeed, yeah.
Was there any discussion about doing it again? A follow-up?
No, I was just kind of happy that he did it, and
Okay.
So we got several questions already in our
go ahead, Alan.
in the YouTube stream. From Margie, she commented that she thinks we did a great job. Wish that it was longer and that there were some more questions about female users. John Jensen is glad that he can see everyone in the film strip along the bottom this week. And George Cozy chided us for not asking about apples, and I assume he means Apple computers there.
I don't know. He also he wanted to know earlier. He asked if we were going to ask him what his chapati recipe was. So now I think he's switched to apples. But I think I'm going to actually do a cooking segment with Sariq's wife, and we're going to get some recipes. But I think George Cozy is demonstrating his dry wit. But I could be wrong. And one guy said he's trying to watch both the show and the Olympics opening ceremony. It's not working out too well. May have to watch the recorded version later. But
I'm doing the same.
Well, wait, the recorded version of what? The Olympics or us? Because this is the recorded version. Everyone else on the internet watched it several hours ago already.
I don't know. It ended officially
A while.
Right about as we were starting our interview with Vic.
Now that was the third. There was 1 hour. It ended at about 8 or whatever. So I guess in any final we'll go to Bruce Turner from Lynchburg, Virginia, real quick, and then we'll move on to. I haven't even looked at the topics, Alan. To be honest, I was in such a panic getting ready for this earlier thing. Bruce, did you get a chance to check us out?
You talking about the interview?
Yeah.
Oh, it was incredible. It was absolutely off the chains. Listen, I to be able to, catch him for an interview, but then not only did you have him, obviously a very professional, successful person, but I thought you and Alan asked very professional questions. I mean, it was awesome. And I think it's going to set the plate for future things like that, so I just thought it was great.
I got to say, picking coming up with the questions and picking them was tough because we wanted to try to be. We didn't want total softball questions, and some got in. I think we know that. But we wanted, but we wanted to try to ask real questions and try to find things that would get some real answers. And I don't know. Looking backwards, it's easy to say where we met. It's easy to see where we missed. It's easy to see where we did a little bit better, but it was hard.
But listen, Alan,
Craig is going to sit there and crise us no matter what. So.
But this is a different. Let me make an observation. If this had been 3 months in, when the ghost town and all these negative articles, and I did ask. I said some of that criticism was valid, especially about it was basically, white male geeks on the service, right? Early on, and then now it's diversified. But now, since really the turning point, as we've said before, was Google I/O. After they did an amazing show, they introduced some amazing hardware products and software updates, and you have seen a dramatic change in the press coverage. I have not seen a single negative article about the Nexus 7. I even printed a blank rectangle as a joke or satire to say, here's a list of all the negative articles I've found on the Nexus 7. And I have one somewhere. And you have a Q, which is, pardon the pun,
Dan,
kind of an
Dan,
oddball
back up just a little bit when you said it's it's still not really diversified now.
It's getting there. I mean, there's beauty queens in every beauty queen within 50 miles of Frederick County.
But trust me, I'm having to drag them in kicking and screaming. It's not diversified yet. I'll let you know when it's diversified.
I'm sure you will.
Show them some chicken wings. They'll come.
See, Alan is only in a good mood now because he went to I/O and drank the Kool-Aid. But where's Bruce? Let me find Bruce again. Bruce.
No, I mean, it's still easy for me to pick on Google. I'm happy to do so, and I'll do so on some of our other topics later.
But really, there is no burning controversy that everyone's freaking out about now, Alan. If this had been a general Google thing, like if Larry Page were on, I would have asked him about the Street View data that the news came. If you notice, everyone's dumping their trash today. There's all these like scandalous bad stories that came out, and it's all because this is the perfect day. The Dow record high, the Olympics are starting, Vic and Dotra's, doing a Google Plus Week special. But it's a big news. I mean, nobody is watching the news today, so everyone's dumping out all their negative news today. It's called dumping out the trash, like when the White House, puts out reports on and they announced that the debt would be whatever $1 trillion. The federal administration said that. So there's a lot of bad news that you're not even noticing. But finish up, Bruce. I'm sorry.
Hey, listen, you're not Bill O'Reilly, and this isn't the Factor. This is Google Plus Week, and I don't think it was your job to toss him hardball questions. But if I thought when you asked him questions about Marissa Myers, when you asked him questions about the API, and he had a chance to say, that's the first time I've heard him say anything about Marissa Myers going to Google. So I thought it was really great. I give you A+ on the interview.
Well, thank you.
Both you and Alan.
There is no big drama thing. But
I think it's the best I've seen on Google Plus so far.
Thank you.
I mean,
absolutely.
And we're getting things like, okay, guys, stop the praise chorus.
Not just by you, Dan, but overall, I've seen many interviews, but I think you did a great job, both of you guys.
Yeah. Thanks.
Exactly.
I had a teleprompter and a script and everything, so that was very helpful. But
I saw Alan holding up the teleprompter.
Well, he's a few hours away. All right, Alan, what is our? But thank you all
This is my teleprompter.
Yeah.
This is what I was reading off of.
Thank you all as he flaunts his white-backed rare Nexus 7.
It gets dirty.
Let me ask you a quick Nexus.
It does get scuffs.
It's only 8 gigs. It's only 8 gigs. Come on.
Let me ask you a quick Nexus 7 question. A buddy of mine, one of my layout guys, Jeff, he's a masterful artist. He does great. Jeff Richmond. We were trying that thing. What's it called?
That thing.
Where you
as opposed to that other thing.
You touch the Nexus 7s and they become one.
NFC.
NFC.
Android Beam.
The NFC sharing.
Yeah.
Beam. Android Beam.
How close? You have to physically touch them, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
What the hell useful? I mean, come on. What's the practical?
The social feature.
Yeah.
To hold up your Nexus 7s?
It's a lot easier than hooking some cable between them or something.
Yeah, but it's also a lot slower.
But if you're that close, couldn't you just flip a damn thing around and show somebody what's on the screen?
Now, if you want to give them the picture, if you took a picture and you want to give the picture to them,
that's what it's
still
for.
Better than
it's meant for sharing. It's not meant for
viewing.
I thought it was okay. I thought it was like
they demonstrated it with the Q too. You could change grab control change the playlist and things like that.
Oh, I thought it was saying like you can view someone else's Nexus screen, but you have to touch it. So if you're that close, you can just flip your screen around and they can view your screen. Okay, so I didn't get it. I don't know, but I'm not the geek that Alan is. So, all right, Alan, what other topics do we have?
Other
than our hard hitting
topics, really. Well, I mean, we actually did have some problems with Google this week. We had I believe it was Wednesday morning, Hangouts weren't working.
Yep.
And at the same time, Google Talk wasn't working, and that was a 3 hour failure. that they had, and that was pretty prominent. How many people here were affected? And it was early in the U.S., so it was mostly the European office that was taking care of it. It sounded like. Anybody here get hit by it?
Yeah. In fact, I wanted to ask a question. I wish I would have gotten a screenshot. I'm kicking myself. I took away the My Hangouts app, and so I lost the little quick screen capture thing at the top. But obviously, a lot of people were having trouble with Hangouts, and I kept trying to come back in, and every once in a while I would get in, and then it would kind of cough and sputter, and then it would go out, and servers down. But one time I got in, and I'm telling you, there was a different chat client on the upper left, including a pop-out arrow where you could pop out the chat. There was a little plus box where you could add people to the chat who weren't in the Hangout. I'm telling you, they were messing around with some new things. I saw it. I'm telling you, man. I swear on a stack of Bibles.
What were you drinking, Bruce? That's the real question.
Listen, I'm telling you, and I reported it in the Tech and Coffee chat. You know what I saw. I just wish I could have snapped a picture of it, because the two things I saw in that chat that I've never seen before at the top was one of those little arrows, with a square little pop-out button where you could pop out the chat separate from the Hangout, and then there was a little plus button where you could click it and add somebody to the chat. I saw it.
And there was, and Bigfoot was there too.
Listen, I'm telling you, you can take it as gospel. If I'm not telling you the truth, you can.
I know you.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, we've seen stuff like this before. Every time we've seen Google Plus acting a little bit flaky, it's a pretty good sign that something is going to be coming out within the next couple of days. Then again, it's not always what we thought we've seen. So people have reported seeing stuff in Hangouts that just never came to pass. And it is what it is. It means they're trying something and they've blocked it out. Who knows what we'll see and when we'll see it, if you'll see it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So was it a server issue, or do you think, as I think, that they were playing around with some new things and really didn't fly?
If they were playing around with some new things, it was an upgrade that went horribly, horribly wrong.
I thought they were reinforcing it for the Olympics to make sure the traffic didn't tear it down and stuff like that.
The chat? I mean, this was Talk and Hangouts that failed.
They're really one and the same because they use the same Google Talk plugin.
Right. I mean, they use the same infrastructure. They were developed by the same team. They're maintained by the same team.
Yeah.
But that's not something that I would have expected them to beef up for the Olympics.
Yeah, but it's interesting, see, because you saw the same problem with chat in Gmail. You saw the same problem with chat in Google Plus. And I'm telling you that, they were messing around with chat.
Well, we saw it in both places. But they were, something was going on. Whether it was, a server. The other possibility is that you could have seen a server that regressed to a previous version.
Mm-hmm.
And while they were trying to restore it or something, I don't know, and I don't think they're going to tell us. But it's clear there was something going on. Whether that was an accident or in preparation for something else, I don't know.
Well, the American Psychiatric Society has added a new diagnosis to their book. It's called Hangout Withdrawal Syndrome, HWS.
There you go. Well, I take two significant things away from the interview earlier. When he talked about, he danced around the content creation thing. And because when he talked about it being a destination, and that was one of the questions that I wanted asked, is how he felt about Google Plus being a content creation platform. And that kind of got answered in that, where he was talking about it as a destination. Well, why would someplace be a destination? Well, if there's content there, and if there's content created there, that's a good reason for it to be a destination. He didn't come out and say that, but he kind of said that. And then just the fact that he came on the interview, that created content. And so if you can get follow-up interviews and more Googlers to come in and join the show and join the discussion, it'd be really great if you could get some of them to come in and to the full show and join the whole thing. Whether or not they'll be willing to do that or not, that's another question. But that will really validate that they believe in this as a content creation platform. And just because I'm biased, because I'm using it for that, I would love to see that, and that was one of my big takeaways from this. And maybe I'm reading too much into it.
We actually did try to get Vic on the main show. The biggest problem is that the Mountain View staff has their big all hands meeting every Friday at 5 p.m., which is exactly when the show starts. So we were unable to get him during this time, and that's why he had to head off to a meeting afterwards. But that's why we had to do it as a special report earlier.
Now, how long is that meeting usually?
I honestly don't know. I've never been to one.
If it's an hour, for example, maybe somebody could come in after that meeting, because this usually goes on past 9 o'clock, right?
Past 9 o'clock. When was the last time we only went to 9 o'clock?
Well, but you know what I mean. I mean,
time zone,
safely,
right?
You could safely say they could come in at 9, and you're still going to be doing the show.
This is
Well, I
true.
thought the interview was a real score. It was a touchdown. In fact, I was really looking forward to seeing Alan and you guys doing a happy dance thing in the end zone. You know, because
Oh, not on air, Bruce.
no, I know that.
We're a little more professional than that.
That's why there was a half-hour gap between that terminating and this show starting. That was their end zone celebration.
And deservedly so. I mean,
Yes.
Well, that gave us. We needed to breathe. I mean,
yeah.
A round of
Okay.
Yingling for everybody.
So the other big Google news today wasn't a Google Plus news, and we mentioned it a little bit in the earlier interview, was Google announcing Google Fiber in Kansas City, that they were nearly ready, they were going there, and that in order to get a plane ticket to Kansas City, I mean, in order to, so what they announced was awesome. Craig, I know you've been looking into this. You want to tell us what the awesome deal is with Google Fiber?
I am more excited about this than anything I've seen or heard in tech in probably 15 years. And I'll tell you why. When he put that graph up on the screen, anybody that hasn't watched this whole presentation, you got to watch the whole thing. I'm going to watch it again. When he put that graph up and he showed Moore's law and he showed the computer chip, how it doubles every 2 years, and he showed the cost of storage, how it's been doubling every 2 years for the same price point, what you get for your money. And then he showed how the cable modems basically have flatlined since the year 2000 or thereabouts. And that's the only part of the three-pronged equation of the three things that we need to basically be a leader in this world, right? Is we need the computer speed, we need the storage, and we need the internet speed. And that third item, the internet speed, we are way behind a lot of other countries. He then showed on the graph that we're number 13 or whatever, and he showed how many countries are ahead of us in the connectivity speeds. And then he went into what they're doing there in Kansas City and how they're going to roll it out and so forth. And he threw the cable companies under the bus and just put it on full throttle and just ran right over them. And it couldn't happen to a nicer bunch of people. And I can't wait to see Google be a tremendous success in Kansas City. I hope those neighborhoods really rally and really get on that website and pre-register.
Well, let's stop that and look at it for a second. One of the interesting things about this is it essentially sounds like they've got minimal sales staff, and the way they're selling the product is peer pressure.
Yes.
They divided Kansas City up into a bunch into clusters of, what did they say it was, 800 houses?
Didn't they call them fiber hoods also?
Yes, 800 houses to a fiber hood.
Yeah.
And if you get somewhere between, what did they say, 5 and 10% of the people in a fiber hood,
yeah,
you'll get it.
Yeah. Yeah. And the ones that get the most get it first. And so it's strictly a competition. Right? It's strictly a competition between the neighborhoods, which is the same way they selected Kansas City in the first place.
The funny thing is you can go ahead and register yourself even though you're not in Kansas City right now.
I wonder something though. I've seen like throughout the years with Google releasing their products, I think fiber will upset a lot of markets. And the last time they did that was like, that I can remember, was like Google TV. If it would have had the content adoption, the networks, they were behind it, it would have been a greater success than what it is now. But like with them using like their own set-top boxes, making internet, now all the ISPs is going to be gunning for them. All the set-top boxes manufacturing going to be gunning for them because they're getting all into these spaces where they're going to make their competition get better, which is a good thing, you know. But if they don't adopt it, like all the channels they have to, you know, join to be a part of the service and everything, if they don't get that, well, it fell.
Yeah, but they're in a unique situation to start offering a la carte versus any other.
Yeah.
They've got a fair number of providers have already signed up. They don't have them all, but they've got a pretty good list. And if they've got enough of a list to be compelling, if they can get critical mass, that's the key here. They've got to get critical mass. They've got to get enough people to sign up for this thing to really show that it'll work and get momentum with it. If they can do that, then the holdout providers are going to have to sign up with them because otherwise they're going to be left out in left field.
Yeah, but you have to remember that Verizon had FiOS and they kind of stopped it, right? I mean, it's still out there, but it didn't.
Well, they're not expecting. Verizon has said they're no longer doing additional fiber rollouts.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So Google is is kind of like is in a unique position to kind of just push it forward. I don't know why they picked Kansas City. I don't know why they didn't do the Bay Area.
They're probably doing Kansas City because Kansas City would cooperate with them.
Exactly.
I bet you
a lot of cities were willing to cooperate with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, but to what extent? That's the question.
No. Mountain View would have done it in a second. Google is located in Mountain View. Mountain View, Sunnyvale, I mean, the whole Bay Area.
We say they would have done it in a second, but as soon as you start talking about infrastructure issues, you got all these people with axes to grind that start sticking their nose in things and that start throwing up barriers, and you wouldn't believe I can't believe they're pulling it off anywhere. I'm just happy they're pulling it off somewhere. And correct me if I'm wrong, but Verizon does not run the fiber all the way into your house and does not have it right on the wall there and giving you the kind of speeds that Google is talking about.
The fiber
comparing
runs to
apples
ONT,
to oranges.
The fiber runs to an ONT, which is mounted right outside your house, and there's a gigabit Ethernet line running from that inside the house. So they do offer it, or they can. They choose not to.
I've never talked to anybody with Verizon Fios that's getting those kind of speeds.
No, because they're not offering it right now.
This is the middle out. Maybe
I'm not
from the middle and working their way out.
Go ahead.
I'm not paying for Fios's fastest plan, but we have fiber all the way into the garage. They and then we have a cable that goes to the Verizon box on top of my computer. And it's pretty freaking fast.
Well, here's the thing. No, you're not getting gigabit speeds. Verizon just recently announced that they were going to be upping their max speed to 300 megabits.
Yeah,
what's the cost?
Huge.
For me, I'm getting the slowest speed because I don't stream a lot of video, and I can watch Netflix actually on two computers.
Okay, and what's the cost?
It's about $50 a month.
Okay.
It might be $60.
So you got a better deal than I did. I mean, when I was paying when I had Fios, it was creeping up on 100 for decent speed and their low-end television and phone.
Yeah, but she says she has the lower speed.
I have the lowest speed that they offer, which I think is I don't know, it's 30,
it differs for each
60,
area,
something like that. What?
It differs for each area too. So
yeah, and it's not as fast as like my work's T1 line or anything, but it's pretty fast.
And actually,
T1 isn't very fast.
This actually raises the question. One of my concerns is that one of the arguments that Verizon and the cable companies have been making when it comes to net neutrality is that they don't want net neutrality, or they want their definition of net neutrality, because they feel they need to manage the network. And is Google going to be giving us Verizon's vision of net neutrality, some other definition of net neutrality, i.e. the one that people who actually believe in net neutrality want? And are they going to be doing real network management? And if they are, this knocks Verizon's arguments into a hat.
Well, Verizon's agenda is a lot different too. Verizon wants to make money, and what they don't want you to do is they don't want you setting up servers and stuff like that in your house. And that's not Google's fight. I don't think they're going to put a dog in that fight at all. And so I think there's a reason why Verizon does it, and Google probably won't.
So is Google not going to care if you put a server in your house?
Craig,
They shouldn't.
Yes,
Why would
go.
they?
Have you guys read an article on GigaOM with the title? You guys can Google this. I'll share the link as well. It's called "The Economics of Google Fiber and What It Means for U.S. Broadband."
Yes, and I think they only barely scratched the surface on the real questions.
I agree, but what I'm saying is, what Google's venture is really exposing is, doesn't matter. Verizon has put a huge fiber network out there. The capability of that fiber network is in the gigabits per second. It's not, Google is just starting with 1 gigabit. Verizon's cable has a lot more capacity, but at the end of the day, they don't really have any competition out there who can really give more speeds.
Who's they? Who's they?
I'm talking about Fios. For example,
Fios isn't available most places, so it's not.
I agree. I'm just
neither is Google Cable, neither is Google Fiber. So,
and then,
well, we know this, but we want it everywhere.
Let me complete. So what they're saying is, Google, by manufacturing all these electronics hardware by themselves, they're cutting the fat out of almost all the hardware gear that is required to do this. Right? That's one thing. Second thing, the local loop. Anybody who is an electronics engineer out here will know what I'm trying to say. When you have a Verizon Fios connection, I had one. I'm sure Alan knows about this. They put I forgot the name of that box inside your house somewhere.
ONT.
ONT, right. And then from that box to your network, it's basically a copper wire. It's basically the coax. But till that box, what is the point in having a fiber connection till your network, till the access point, till your router, and then from there onwards, you're
no, Sriq, that's a bad comparison, because really it's a bad comparison because really all that Google is doing is they're running the fiber to their equivalent of an ONT, and then inside the house you're still going to be using your standard video cable, you're going to be using Wi-Fi, you're going to be using gigabit Ethernet. That's exactly what Verizon offers. Well, Verizon, the cable between the ONT and the Verizon router is gigabit Ethernet.
Is it?
Yes.
So are you saying
Cat 6?
Are you saying that I mean, what I'm saying is, I don't know how Google is wiring this, but I think till the Wi-Fi router, they are trying to put the same optical fiber.
Yes, but so what? That just pushes. I mean, that it doesn't really matter where exactly the ONT termination is. It's
probably. I'm not denying that. I'm just saying that the reason why you're paying so much money for Verizon or any supposedly fast internet connectivity at home is because there's no other option. The place I live in right now, I used to have Fios before. The place I live right now, I only have Comcast. And
okay, so Sriq, and I'm not disagreeing with the fact that competition's a serious issue, but you're essentially saying that Verizon, that there are no costs involved in managing a network, and that Verizon and what they do, or that Google and what they do, is not going to manage the network in some way.
There is cost involved. I'm just saying that probably because they are sourcing their hardware from Cisco, for example, Scientific Atlanta, just like you probably read in the article, and they are actually paying out a lot of money to third parties to set this up for each individual house, right? But Google is looking at from a very objective perspective and saying, where can I cut the cost? What is my long-term revenue? They're saying that, you know what I'm saying?
So you're saying that it's cheaper for Google to develop something in-house than to rely on a company that's been building cable boxes for decades.
I think they have figured out a way.
Well, they own Motorola. Motorola makes cable boxes.
Yeah, but Motorola didn't make this box.
I agree. That's a very valid point. But if you read that article, it clearly says they build it, right?
Right, but it doesn't. I mean, this is the problem I had with that article, is that they didn't really go into the costs involved in these various things. So it's not clear.
Alan, do you seriously think they're going to give it?
May I ask one quick question? Do you guys think that Google has the technology, the wherewithal, the hardware expertise, the network expertise to just come in and just slam dunk this whole the whole idea of putting fiber throughout the United States? You know, that's my answer is I think they're in it for the long haul. They can do it.
I don't think there's proof that they're in it for the long haul, and I don't think there's proof that they're in it for the big game.
I agree.
I think they're going to do something like a franchisee game.
There were certainly some bold statements in that presentation yesterday that I watched that seems like they're certainly headed that direction. They didn't talk at all like we're just going to do this in Kansas City and see how it works. Wow, I mean, they were like, we're going to learn from Kansas City and we're going to do this everywhere. That was the message I got.
I don't remember them actually saying we're going to do this everywhere.
And who does advertising the best? Right? What is Google about? You know, could you imagine TV and Google? No, come on. We're talking. They're just salivating at the TV market, putting in advertisements in there, making it interactive.
Jeff, the bottom line here is that Google products work if we are connected to the internet, and the faster that connection is, the better Google products work.
But here's
they demonstrated with that graph. They demonstrated with that graph that the cable companies are holding them back, and they're going to do something about it.
Not just that. Cable companies are blocking services that's available on Google TV. If you look at, I forgot which company it was. Google is trying to deliver more content on the way they want it. And do you think companies like Comcast
that falls under holding them back?
Craig,
holding them back.
Craig, but here's the problem. That more argues for the fact that Google is not in this for the long haul. That more argues that as soon as Google gets their way and is able to pressure all of the cable companies, all of the data access companies into giving them what they want, they're going to walk away.
Okay, Alan,
I agree with you there. I agree
hang on,
with
Dan's
you
trying
there.
to say something. I want to know what he's trying to say.
Yeah,
he keeps
Alan,
saying my name.
I want to get to this last topic before you have to roll out. But let me tell you that my thoughts on this are that Google is. The details are it's a $300 install, but if you do a term commitment, they waive that. And I have Comcast Business Class for my TV studio here, and it's about 30 down and about anywhere from 10 to 15 up. So it's way less than what they're offering, but the prices are about the same. They have Comcast has a $250 install for Comcast Business, but if you do it, you can negotiate with them, and they'll waive that if you do a 2-year commitment.
And we should point out right up front that Google Fiber, the prices listed were residential only. They have not yet discussed business connections.
Well, I mean, there's no need for a business connection, right? If it's gigabit, I mean, I don't see where there's a differentiation. But with Comcast, the customer service
it depends on your business.
Right. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, okay, so here's the thing. They also have a free service. I say free loosely because you just have to pay, and this is important because they are, do no evil, right, is their motto. And you basically just pay the install over time, and you can get 5 down and 1 up or something.
Here's the deal with that.
It's better than a lot of these rural folks have. It's better than
for
satellite,
7 years, right? You can get it for 7 years. Right?
They guarantee that you will have free, and I put free in quotes because there's a caveat, free 5 down, 1 up for 7 years. Yeah. If you pay the $300 installation. And you can either pay that $300 installation up front or pay $25 a month for 1 year, which comes out to $300.
And that is more than reasonable.
And that's killer.
I mean, wow.
And basically that's so that they can get neighbors to say, hey, look, it's just $25. It's at least as good as what you're getting now. You pay it, you'll have it free for another 6 years after that, and you're going to help me get my high-speed internet.
Yeah. I was the director of communications at Randolph-Macon Academy, and we launched the first what was then it was a single T1 line for like 400 people, but we this was back in like I think 96 or something. I mean, it was very early on, and it was I pushed for this, and I'm proud to say we were the first private school, high school, and middle high school in America to bring what was then considered broadband internet or any internet to every dorm room on campus. I lobbied hard, and we did a deal with a local ISP to sort of hold our hand and get us going. But we installed 2 Ethernet ports in every single dorm room and classroom on campus, and we brought in a single T1 initially, and then we ended up with like 20 or 30 T1s. And then we to pay for it, we offered for $12.95 a month an internet service to the local community, and just to sort of generate revenue to subsidize our costs. So we did it, and we did it for free because the revenue we made it so that the revenue evened out. And so this is sort of, I think this is just awesome. This is the next, I mean, talk about Web 2.0 or 3.0. This is amazing to me. So I would just say I think this is fascinating. I want to get Alan's take on this last topic before he has to roll out, because this is the last topic we have. And frankly,
I think he already rolled out there.
Did he roll out? Is he
think
gone?
So. Yeah,
okay.
He's dark.
He's dark. Okay, he's all right. Well, I guess what I'll do is if there are any other, let's start. Let's just go down the room here, and you guys just let's have a free for all. I'm kind of. I'll be honest with you. I was really. I'm going to go to Bruce Bruce next, since he's my good buddy, or actually I'm going to go to Margie. Did Margie leave, or she came in?
She never made it in.
Okay. What I wanted, I was so stressed, Bruce. You have no idea. Before you got in, when Vic came in, I said, I joked, about how I lost weight from the stress, and it was so much fun. It was so neat to, get him on a show, and it was so exciting because I hope that, and I'm going to get a quick shot here of Srikan, this adorable kid who absolutely destroyed a wonderful restaurant in Front Royal when he was here during our hurl. What's up, buddy? Cute little kid. Thank God he's got his mic muted, because I imagine it's really loud there.
He can't hear you. And the Olympics is going on. I can't do anything about it.
That's okay. You have wonderful, wonderful children. But
you think so?
Oh yeah, they're great. I don't know if the waiters and waitresses at what's that great restaurant we went to, Sriq? Sriq is just as ADHD as I am, so it's really rough when he's in the hangout because we just go off a tangent. Element is a wonderful restaurant. One of the top 10 restaurants in the United States is the Inn at Little Washington. It's in Washington, Virginia, and I think the famous British playwright who wrote Cats and Evita,
Andrew Lloyd
Webber said it was perhaps the best food he'd ever eaten. It's like, we're talking $200-300 before wine dinner, right? So it's a big deal. It's also the only place in I think the world that has 4 or 5 stars or whatever it is, the maximum for their inn and the restaurant. So there were this young couple met there. There were sous chefs or whatever, and they got married and they started their own restaurant. So you're getting that kind of food, that caliber, and it was amazing what we ate there, but it was very reasonable prices. It's what you'd pay at Applebee's or Fridays, if not less, but you're getting like 5-star food. So it's just really one of these little independent, non-big chain gems, these hidden treasures that only the locals will know about. You know what I mean? So Dan
knows where to take celebrities.
Indeed, yes. But let me go to Bruce real quick. Anything? We're kind of done until Alan rejoins us or what have you. But I guess we'll just do a free for all because we're kind of done with the official. There are no official topics. There was like 4 or 5 because frankly we were so overwhelmed and nervous prepping for the Vic thing that I spent all day on that, and then I didn't even start the video intro till like 5:30 p.m. and I was like really rushing, but we winged it and it worked. what's on your mind, Bruce? Why don't you start a conversation and let's just let
Sure.
it go from Bruce and then Craig and then Michael and Pam and Sarik. And if Sarik's son wants to join in, that's fine. But go ahead and start and tell us what's on your mind.
Well, I just think it's a great way to celebrate a year of Google Plus Week. I think that what began as a dream in your heart has only grown and gotten better in every way that you can imagine. I will tell you, in my experience as really a public speaker for 35 years, that watching the interview, I could not see any nervousness in you. I could not hear or see any tension. I'm sure that you had it. I'm sure that it was there getting ready for it. I mean, going on the big stage, as it were. But I thought you handled it magnificently, and I'm looking forward to sharing it and plus wanting it. I believe I've already done that, but I thought it was really good, and who knows what the rest of the year holds. And so it's just been a real privilege, and I'm sure I would speak for all of us, that we've been able to kind of ride along and be part of it and have the opportunity to share our thoughts and opinions, here in a little town of Lynchburg, Virginia, and other people in different places. So you've not only created a great platform for yourself and for getting the word out about Google+, but you've also provided a great opportunity for others to kind of get a feel for what it's like to be able to do Hangouts on air and make them effective and do them well.
Thank you very much. And he didn't know what to expect. I mean, it could have been an ambush interview, or so I appreciate him coming on. But I mean, but he, like I said, he's interacted with me before, and we have a pretty good track record. But I will tell you that you were only as strong as the panel, and the reason Google Plus the reason Google Plus Week works is folks like you and Pam and Craig and Michael and Sarik and Alan, of course, and Oleg. The reason this works is that you have a talented and interesting panel. The folks watch Meet the Press or the McLaughlin Group or whatever, not for the host. They watch it to hear what George Will says or what Pat Buchanan or Eleanor Clift say. They watch, it's the most, and I've told people this, when you're doing Hangout based shows, the most important thing to do is to make sure that you have a really interesting and diverse panel that can make it compelling television. And don't look at Hangouts or public access TV. If you want to come up with a great Hangout-based show, look at NBC, CBS, ABC, Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, and that's your goal, to be that good. And so that's what I've tried to do, and it's taken me this year to assemble. Like Craig just randomly, came in. Craig Shipp came in my hand. He's fantastic, and you're awesome, and everyone here, Pam and Michael, Sarik, everybody, they're all awesome in their own way, and they're very different. You come from a conservative background in Lynchburg. Craig Shipp is one of those Ron Paul people, Tea Party guys, and Pam is not either of those things. I'm not sure what Mike's politics are, but and Sarik is an admitted practicing liberal. So I think it's fantastic because it makes us diverse and strong, and we can really mix it up. But everyone here has brain cells. Everyone here is interesting and smart. So that's the key. It's nobody wants to watch a 2-hour monologue from me. It's the panel that makes this show great.
I watched a show today. I won't say what network it was, and it wasn't the TWiT network. You will think it was to hear me describe it. A show that was done where the guy who was kind of controlling it was probably sitting in a room filled with $300 to maybe $500,000 worth of equipment, just a whole bunch of complicated stuff. And you've proven what one man can do with simple things that anybody can go out and acquire and put together, and it's just like blogging made people a journalist who had never thought that they could be a journalist before. So it's been a great challenge. And you talk about Craig. I know Craig's next up, but I've watched some of the shows that Craig's doing, and I think we're all learning from each other. Wouldn't you say so, Craig?
Oh yeah,
well, I know I'm learning.
Let's throw it to Craig next. Craig is fantastic. He's got his show. He has several different hangout shows he does. He does. I guess you do Frederick Week, and thank you, Bruce, very much for the kind words. I really appreciate it, especially coming from you. You're a very kind person in general, but I know that you don't, you're not full of it, so I appreciate those thoughts. But Craig does he does Frederick Week and Pageant Live. I think that was very because I was kidding you about it because I thought a hangout with beauty queens or and we were joking about the obvious things that two men would joke about, getting a bunch of beauty queens in a hangout. And but this thing is really awesome. You have had several national and regional title holders on, and they're giving advice. And I think it's so neat because the way the hangout format works, young girls who are interested in that and joining a pageant themselves have an opportunity to ask questions before or during. Of folks, like the Miss Teen whatever USA and the Mrs. whatever. I mean, you have a diverse age group. I think it's and folks internationally who are in pageants. It's really interesting how you. I think it's a very innovative idea. It was totally out there, and it works. The best ideas are kind of crazy, right? When you first think of them.
Well, I think whether or not it works or not, time will tell. But I think that we're on the right track, and I'll tell you how this all came about. For many years, I've covered events, as you know, in the Frederick County area and in other counties around here, and some of the events were these local pageants, primarily for the Miss America organization, and they all had titles like Miss Frederick, Miss Montgomery County. And I was thinking to myself, well, wouldn't it be great to have Miss Frederick, for example, do some promotional things for Frederick.com, for my local portal website? So I had an axe to grind here. So I went out and I started covering some of these events and started looking into it and finding out what kind of community service work they do. And the more I learned about it, the more I learned that there's no blanket answer. That they're all different. They're all different people. They're different pageants. There's a whole bunch of different pageants. I thought there was just one or two, but there's more than that. And some of these young ladies and their moms and so forth, they are into this their whole life. I mean, they start when they're little toddlers and they're doing it their whole life. And so when the Hangouts came around and all, I said, what better way to give them a forum and a place to talk and exchange ideas, just like we do about technology, just like when Bruce told me about that adapter to hook up a microphone to my iPhone. They can share their best hair extension or their best makeup tricks or their best way to walk on stage. And what better way to give them a forum to do that than with a Hangout. So that's the experiment that we're doing, and as you know, I'm doing some other shows as well. But I just thought it would be a great way to give them a voice, and Paige was enthusiastic about doing the show. Her mom was enthusiastic and supportive about doing the show. So we figured, why not try it?
Yeah, I think it's fantastic, and I think it's very innovative, and I hope it encourages other folks. I mean, there are lots of niche Hangouts, right?
Yep.
And ours is one. I mean, frankly, but I think it's just fantastic what you're doing with the platform. Michael, what's going on in your neck of the woods, or what's interesting, or what caught your eye today, or any thoughts on anything we've talked about so far?
Today I got lucky and got a Nexus 7, the last one in my city.
I did the same thing. I was getting a haircut at my normal hairstylist was out of town or something, right? It was right before, I think, last week's show. And she's awesome, and I go there. So I went to Haircuttery to get an emergency haircut. And she did okay, right? I guess. I don't know. But that you can be the judge. It's a subjective criteria. And I randomly walked into Staples, and there was the Nexus 7. I was like, whoa, you know, and because I had earlier gone into GameStop, and they looked at me like I was crazy, you know, like, are you kidding? You know, we don't have any in stock. They're all sold. So I got the last one. So what do you think? What are your thoughts?
The way I got one was, you know, I did the same thing, except instead of actually going to GameStop, I called every GameStop in my area. So they were all sold out. They were like on back order for like most of them. So then I called Office Max, checked at Best Buy, and then I called Staples, and it was like, I asked them, do they have one? And it was like, I have one left. So I was like, I'm on the way. So I just hung up the phone and I went there, and then I bought it, and just, I didn't care if it was 8 gig or the 16 gig, but I really wanted the 16 gig. And luckily it was the 16 gig.
Wow.
So that's how I got my Nexus 7. Now, I've already rooted it, put Flashback on it.
Is there a need to root it? Why would you root it? I mean, it's raw
So
Android
I can put
anyway,
Flashback
right?
on it, so I can do different ROMs and make it different than yours. For example, there's like these widgets on the notification screen that I can toggle, like Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, stuff like that, that you can't do on your Nexus 7. Stuff like that. You know, put Flashback on it. Run certain root-only apps. Just a bunch of random stuff.
Are there any disadvantages to doing that?
Yes, the main major one that everyone is afraid of and why everyone doesn't do it is you can potentially brick your device. I will say with Nexus device it is a little harder to brick them, but it's always possible. Now, the way I was going to do it at first is like a manual old-fashioned way where you pull up like the terminal and, you know, root it like manually, but there happened to be like a toolkit that automatically does it. You just walk through the process and it does it for you. So I did that and it was much easier. It took like 10 minutes.
Wow.
That's
All
what I
right.
did.
So you, I mean, what I did? I was having a problem finding places with public Wi-Fi, and a note to every restaurant: get Wi-Fi. It's 2012. If Starbucks, which is the #1 coffee chain, and McDonald's, which is the #1 fast food place, does this, they're not stupid. They're not going to waste money, right? They wouldn't do this if it didn't work. And McDonald's is not some place where people sit for hours and hours and hours, right? Some of them have a sign, you know, please limit consumption time to 20 minutes. So follow the leader. You know, if you want to learn how to make good French fries, go to a McDonald's. If you want to learn how to make a nice cup of, you know, robust coffee, go to Starbucks. And if you want to figure out how to, especially like business folks or anyone eating alone, you want Wi-Fi because people are getting more tablets and things like that. And it's time, you know. So
it's not that hard. It's not that hard at all. All you need is a router, basically, because every restaurant pretty much has internet.
Absolutely, they buy a $30, $40 router or whatever, and they're I mean, there are options. You know, you can go with companies that will have your page and the terms of service. But I mean, just throw a router up there, do it. You know,
Definitely.
And what I did was I actually turned on because I looked at the data usage I was using, and it was in the low 100,000 range, so it was way under 1 gigabyte. I think 1 month I did 1 gigabyte. So just looking at, you know, Twitter and Google Plus and that sort of thing, I'm not watching Netflix, and I'm only doing it when I'm, you know, out of my office or studio here, and so it wasn't that much data. So Sprint, which is my carrier, they have a plan where you can do a mobile hotspot. I could do a cable for free. I could scam it, you know, but I want, you know, I want to set my cell phone, plug it into my charger in my car, on my dashboard, and I want to be able to sit in the restaurant and use my Nexus 7. So it's $20 a month for 2 gigabytes of data, and that's more than I use. That's more than twice what I use. So it's worth it. So I think this is, you know, an epic thing. Margie, let me skip to you real quick because you haven't said anything because I guess you got some data issues, right? And then we'll go to Pam and Sreek. So any thoughts on anything? We're getting a bad echo from you.
Exactly. That's why I had it off. I don't know what's going on. My account's just crazy. But I'll talk to you guys later.
All right. All right, no problem. So we'll see if she can get that worked out. Pam, any thoughts on anything we've discussed thus far, or whatever's interesting going on in your neck of the woods?
No, not really. It was just another week here on Google Plus. Sorry, I'm not that exciting. I'm not buying a Nexus, whatever. I'm not. I'm buying my daughter a laptop. She needs one for college, so that's what I'm going to be doing.
Buy a Mac. Buy a Mac.
Yeah, what
Not
are you
gonna happen.
buying?
Not
What are
going to
you buying?
happen.
Why
I'm
not?
gonna
What are
buy-
you buying?
Why not?
I'm going to be buying probably a Dell from Costco. It comes with Windows Office, and it's an Intel i5, and it comes with 8 gigs of RAM and a printer for $699. So I
Not
can't
bad.
beat that.
Not bad.
That's not bad. I agree. That's a
So
pretty
Adele,
Dan, we can't hear you.
can you hear me now?
Yeah.
All right.
yeah, can hear you now.
Can you hear me now? So we're a Verizon commercial. Well, I wish you luck with your daughter's laptop, and you didn't consider a tablet or whatever. You wanted the full. This is why I think that Surface thing is very interesting. That's going to duplicate the entire. And I wonder if
She has a Kindle. She has a Kindle Fire, and she plays with that a lot in the house. But the laptop is for school, for college. She just graduated from high school, so there's a
This is
reason.
for my college. This is for my college.
Yeah.
I'm curious is she a Windows or a Mac person as far as the desktop, what she's used to?
Neither of my kids have any experience at all with Apple products.
If the Surface tablet was out, and my next question is going to go to Sarik and then Michael, whoever wants to join in, definitely Craig, about whether Apple is going to be forced to come up with a tablet that duplicates the entire desktop version of iOS. I'm really curious about what your thoughts are on that. But Pam, if there was, say, $1,000 wild figure I'm pulling out of thin air, the Microsoft Surface tablet that duplicated the entire Windows experience, not a scaled down version, but the actual desktop experience, would you consider that over a laptop?
I would have to ask her what her preference is. She wanted something with a keyboard, and she really didn't want to have a touch screen. So,
but would she be, because like you realize you can like plug in, like on a Nexus 7, you can plug in a USB. Ideally, it would be a powered one, but you could plug in a USB port when you dock, right? When you're sitting at your desk, you can have your USB hub, and you could plug in a wireless keyboard, mouse, or whatever, and then you could have the full functionality. But if there were an option where she had the full desktop experience on this tablet, the Microsoft Surface, at the same time she had the portability option when she's in the coffee house or lying in bed and wants to read a book and doesn't want this bulky laptop, just wants this thing she can twist on its side and read it while she's lying on her pillow. Don't you think that would be intriguing? I think this is a game-changing thing that Microsoft's going to do based on what we've heard so far from 10,000 feet in the air, right?
Right. So if my budget were bigger and I didn't also have to try and purchase her a car so she can go to college, and I had the money, then I might explore some of these other options. But I can't beat this all-in-one deal right now. It's just too good of a deal for under $700, and that's shipped to my house.
And definitely get her a grocery getter.
Yeah, we don't know the final pricing on the Surface yet, do we, Dan?
Correct. Yeah, no, it could be, $500 or $1,200. We have no idea.
Yeah.
But let me go to Sarik real quick. What are your thoughts on whatever you want to talk about? And also, what do you think about whether Apple is going to be assuming what we think is true, that this the higher end Surface, there's going to be two versions. One is going to be a large, Windows 8 mobile version, and one will be a full desktop experience version. So what are your thoughts on, clearly Apple's going to have to come out, based on the reception of this device and the adoption, they're clearly going to have to come out with something similar with the full-blown iOS, right?
There are multiple aspects to this. From my experience, I'll tell you this. This is entirely my opinion. I use a MacBook Pro, and I have OS X. I had OS X Lion till yesterday. Yesterday I upgraded to Mountain Lion. One of the things Apple is doing, which people are not really realizing, is they are blurring the boundaries between iOS and OS X. So for example, a lot of things that iOS had, for example, notification center, blah, 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 is drifting into the OS X platform. So unlike how Google does, where Android goes in one way and Chrome OS goes another way, in the Apple area, both are converging. In a few releases, you will see operating system. Basically, both are fundamentally based on Unix operating system. It's not very difficult to merge. You will see everything converging. That's my point number one. Second point is, what is the real reason why somebody, whatever reviews I've read about Windows 8, I'm not really very happy. It's not groundbreaking. I'm not talking about Surface. I'm talking about Windows 8. It is a saying from my country where you have the wine in the new bottle or whatever. So in terms of the touch interface, yes, it looked great. Unless Surface is a big hit, I'm not really sure Apple has any reason to be concerned. I don't think, from my perspective, Apple is going to get into the desktop computing, the new era of PowerBooks and all these things, because even with Surface, whether Surface is going to be really a big competitor for MacBook Air, that's what I'm looking at. Now, to ask Pam, you paid how much? $700 for the, $650, I don't know, $699? For the
$699. I haven't paid for it yet. I haven't ordered it.
Right. So, and the purpose of it is to last for 3 years. I don't know, at least.
Yes, 2 years.
2 years. And considering how college kids use laptops, and considering how many Dells and HPs I have used, I'm not really sure about that. But again, I'm not criticizing your judgment. What I'm saying is, a MacBook Air costs $1,000 and change. It's not like I don't even think it's more than that. $1,075 you get a MacBook Air, the new ones with Retina display and pretty good hardware, everything. The reason why it costs more, and maybe Bruce can support me on this, is because the aluminum unibody design and the overall versatility of the device itself is much more. I am a Windows user and a PC user since almost 14 years. Since 1 year, I've been using Mac devices, and I'm telling you, it's a world apart. Well, it's basically, you can also do it in a different way. If you're buying it from an Apple store, you can actually take it for 12-month interest-free loans. You know what I'm saying? I tried to do that.
You can also get an education discount too.
Exactly. Students get an education discount for Mac products.
Not a lot, but you can.
Yes. What I'm asking is, what does your daughter want?
She just wants a laptop to go to school, and she probably doesn't even really want to go to school all that much. I mean, she, trust me, she's not that. She's really not. She just wants a laptop so that she can write papers and do stuff. And I'm not going to buy an Apple product. It's not going to happen. I do not like the fact that they are exclusive with their stuff. I don't like. I do not buy into that, and I'm just not going to do it.
I agree. Define exclusive.
You have to buy apps from the Apple Store. You have to buy their music from iTunes. You can't go to Napster or Walmart or, well, actually, I don't think Walmart does that anymore.
You don't have to buy music from, all the music I have in my hard drive from my MacBook Pro was MP3s, which I own. That's one thing. Second thing, I believe there is. I mean, you're not when you say you're actually buying or downloading software. The App Store is a concept for any platform right now. Microsoft doesn't have an App Store, which doesn't mean anything. Anyway,
They will have one though.
They will eventually have one.
Yeah.
So what is the next argument?
All right, let me ask.
I'm not going to argue, Sariq. I'm not getting him getting her a Mac.
All right, let me ask Michael a question. I'm going to the comments on YouTube and Google Plus here. Buy one through the school; it's cheaper. If you're not a couple people said this. If you're not going to root it, don't buy a Nexus device. What do they mean, Michael?
Nexuses are basically the prime device for Android. And when it was very first Nexus was labeled a developer phone because it didn't have all the carrier stuff on it. It's more open, it's created to be hacked, just like the Q is. They said they want you to play with it. The Nexus can do more than other phones software-wise because it's open and it's there for them to play with.
But why would you say if you're not going to root it, don't buy it? I mean, because I have a Motorola Photon. It's got 2 whatever Android. It doesn't even have ice cream sandwich yet. They're promising it, sometime. They said late July, but I mean it's late July, right? To get ice cream sandwich, which is a version ago now. So what happens is, if you look at the timeline, Google comes out with the new Android, and then Motorola, or whatever your manufacturer is, they come up with a version that works on their phone and has all the things and all the little things like, for example, Sprint, which is my carrier. Sprint says if you take a photograph, it has to make the shutter sound, so that people know you're taking a photograph. In case you're some kind of crazy stalker, taking pictures in the gym locker room or something, whatever. So they have their own things. Then they send it to the carrier, and then the carrier tests it for months and months. So now here it is, almost a year. When was Ice Cream Sandwich released? A long time ago. Many months. I don't know if it's been a year, but a long time. So with the Nexus devices, I've got, 2 versions ahead of what I had. So it's very frustrating. And I just said I will never again buy a standard phone, nor will I recommend anybody unless they're just financially, they can't afford to buy a phone outright. They have to, they can't get, they got to do the free or the $50 phone. But why would someone say there's no point in buying a Nexus device if you're not going to root it and be it? Are they saying, is that a developer's perspective? But just from my perspective, you're getting the newest version of Android with all the whistles and bells.
The best example or comparison I can make with the Nexus line is like when a person buys a computer, most people buy like a laptop, something like a Dell. That's fine. They put stuff on it, they make sure it works, they have support for it and all that. But a Nexus is like one of those gaming PCs where you can put expandable memory. You have access to the motherboard. You can take the frame off. You can put the latest, version of RAM, latest amount of RAM. You can just do so much with it that's more versatile than that Dell laptop. So it's like if you're not going to play with it, it's not really any point for the average person to get that gaming PC.
Okay. A couple other comments here. The only thing that stops advertisers. I'm going back a few minutes because I apologize. Alan's normally better at keeping up with this than I am. The only thing that stops advertisers from charging your zip code more than mine or hers or the other person's is the fact that we all see the same broadcast. I disagree. Hyper-local advertising will invariably lead to tiered pricing for the same items. That's interesting because remember that story that different, I forget what Apple users or something saw a higher price tag, like folks like Craig who buy Apple products for their ease of use and lack of complexity and large wallet. they got shown higher prices on some website.
You know, Dan, there's a lot of debate going on in the chat right now between, you know, what somebody should buy, a Windows or Mac or whatever. I look at any piece of gear this way. I buy gear to do a job to make money. When I'm out doing something for fun, I'm playing tennis, I'm playing volleyball, I'm not on the computer. I'm not on the computer for fun, even though I enjoy this show. I'm on the computer strictly to make money. And anything that gets in my way, that puts up a barrier, that barrier's gone, if there's anything I have to say about it. And 6 years ago, I switched from Windows to Mac for just one of my units, one of my workstations. And then a year later, I switched to the next one. A year later, everything was switched over. And it is the difference between ice cream and excrement. I mean, it is not even close. The productivity that I can get out of my workstations that I have now versus a Windows workstation is night and day. And so it just depends on what you're doing. If you're using these devices to make money and your time is valuable, then figure out what works best for whatever it is you're doing and do that. Don't say, well, I'm going to buy this one because it's $200 or $300 less money, because that $200 or $300 over 2 or 3 years, the amount of time and aggravation and everything else that it might cause you may not be worth that $200 or $300. So that's all I'm saying. And I have people call me all the time that are having issues with their Windows PCs, issues that I never even dream of on my devices. So that's all I'll say about Apple.
I totally agree.
Well, both of you guys are successful, you know, and obviously I can't really debate you because I don't have any Apple devices because I don't like them. But
why? That's the question. Why?
I think it's a
Don't ever get one, Dan, because if you get one, you'll switch them all.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't like their practices. And like? Bruce could come in on this.
So are you saying you like Microsoft's practices?
Bill Gates saving the world with malaria tents or whatever.
No, that's a honest question. Are you saying that you like Microsoft's practices?
I've always, perhaps unfairly, succumbed to the impression that Apple. There was a great quote someone said. I can't even remember now, but that Apple is dumb stuff down. I don't like some of their practices that I think Pam was talking about earlier. But Bruce, you are an Apple fan, or let me rephrase that. You are you own a bunch of Apple products, and you are a successful businessman in your own right, and you have recently gotten kind of disgusted with them. Maybe you can defend, you know, my view better than I can. What do you think?
Well, I respect Apple. They're a tremendous company. They built a great business. They have some great hardware. I don't slight any of that at all. And I've been a Windows user since getting started with PCs, with the exception of a Trash 80 that I had back in the day. But most of the businesses that I've been associated with, and even a lot of the software that I use, even in the early days of pastoring, were all Windows products and stuff for studying and things like that. So I mean, I don't have any problem with Windows products. I've not ever had a real bad situation with a virus. A lot of people want to make the comparison about Macs being more impervious to viruses and things like that. My daughter has had a MacBook Pro for a while, but she just recently bought a new laptop and she got a Dell. You know, she's on a Windows 7 machine right now. Windows 7 is a great operating system. I have no problems with it whatsoever. The only Apple product that I own is an iPhone, and the thing that I've stated before that concerns me about Apple, and it doesn't have anything to do with the way they run their business, their profitability, their creativity, their ingenuity. I love the classic design. that they do. But I'm just getting a little bit too frustrated here recently with a lot of the litigation. Most recently, the Nexus 7 tablet blocked in Europe and things like that. And it just frustrates me. I've come to be a much more open-minded person when it comes to platforms. I would seriously consider ordering one of these new Dell laptops with a Linux system on it. But then there'd be some Windows programs that I have to run for my work that would be a little bit challenging to do. So, I mean, I'm not against them. Right now I'm a little frustrated with the litigation instead of innovation type thing. And so in November, when my contract is up, I'm going to be wide open looking at other opportunities and possibilities than just an iPhone. And, from what I see, about the iPhone 5 that's coming out, I'm not all that impressed with a move from a 3.5-inch screen to a 4-inch screen and totally changing the docking from a 30-pin to a 19-pin and all that. Doesn't make much sense to me. I'm really looking for a larger screen is what I'm looking for. So I'm looking at something 4.5 inches to 5 inches.
Now, at the same time, while you say that, and I understand your viewpoint, Craig showed us, alerted me to this incredibly innovative thing, this multi-camera shoot app that he's been using, and it's only available on iOS, right?
So far.
And this is something that, I mean, for your, I mean, obviously you're a particular user who has a particular need, and this app is like right dead center exactly. I mean, sent from heaven to help you, with what you do. As a website, Frederick.com, which is his website and his main website, and it has all these local content videos. So this is just a godsend for you, right? I mean, you could have 2 or 3 of your friends with an iPhone. It doesn't work on Android, and they can simultaneously shoot a parade or an interview or any type of any event, and very quickly they handle the multi-camera shoot and they sync everything up together. I mean, this is a game changer for you. I've never seen you more excited than you were about this product.
Well, I mean, I did a demo of it, and it's something that you have to really plan out, I think, to do something with it. But and I did make the comment at one point in time that I was thinking about getting an Android phone, and one of the things that's holding me back is there are actually a couple of programs that I use pretty regularly on my iPhone that aren't yet available on the Android platform. That gap is getting more narrow. I mean, there's more and more of these apps that were iPhone only are now making their way to the Android platform. And the multi-camera video program that you mentioned, Viclone or whatever it was called, I'm sure it will make its way over. My biggest thing is I'm in the entire environment, so everything just works together so well. Bruce is not. He just has the phone, so it's easier for him to make the jump. With me, again, one of the things I look at is the time it takes for me to do things. So I want it to be very easy for me to download my photos from a shoot, download video clips, produce a video, then sync what I want to sync back to my iPad, back to my iPhone, back onto my other iPad, whatever, move stuff back and forth as I see fit, willy-nilly, and not even give it two shakes of a thought. And that's what I can do with my workflow right now. If I started mixing my system and had a Windows computer and the iPhone, it's much more kludgy to move stuff around and move stuff back and forth. So it's all about what can do it the fastest, most efficient way. And that's what I'm all over, because to me, time is something I can't get back, can't be replaced. Money can be replaced. Time cannot. So that's the way I look at it.
Okay, so let's go ahead and close this up. I'll give.
I have something real quick though.
Huh?
I have something real quick. I just got an email and I need you all advice about a video piracy lawsuit that I just got in an email from Netflix. says if you are a current or a former Netflix subscriber, a class action settlement could affect you. And it says that they are getting sued and blah, blah, blah. So I basically read this email.
Is
and
this
I
a
can show it to
scam?
you.
I mean,
I was wondering if it was spam. I was going to see. Well,
look
you
at all the
it's not
links,
asking
like
you to
see
buy
if it's
anything.
like, you know, random characters or something. But
Yeah, so I went to the website, and it basically seems legit, but you can be the judge
So
for
we're
me.
going to get, so those of us that are Netflix subscribers are going to get a bunch of money. I can retire now.
That's what I thought. And then I went to this website, and it's like the United States District Court of Northern District of California. And I just got that.
is it a real thing, or is it some
I have no
crazy
clue.
California
I have
law
no
that
clue.
is nonsense and they're
I hope
suing
it's
just
not.
in
It
California?
It is not fake. I have a mail, actual mail, not an email from you get these mails that you can either join the class action or you can say you don't want a part of it. And then if there's a settlement, if you join the class action, you're gonna get a payment. I got a physical mail. I'm a Netflix user since 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, and if you join it and if you win, you get $1.25.
Yeah.
And the lawyer, how much do they get, Craig?
They get $1,800 each, and there's 1,000 of them.
Yeah. So it's better to be a lawyer than
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. These are all scams. This is a classic tort reform argument.
But Bruce, getting back to your comment about Apple, I mean, Shakespeare said it best: "Kill all the lawyers." And I know, being a man of the cloth, you could never go with that. But unless we get rid of all the lawyers, we're never going to get rid of all these lawsuits, because they're the ones that dream it all up.
Well, that may be true, but I think there's more to it than just the lawyers. But anyway, I mean, I think like Rick was saying, I think
think about
Apple's in a
it.
tricky
They make the
situation.
law.
It's a PR situation for them, and more and more people are getting concerned about superfluous litigation. There's an outcry in our country and in a lot of different areas, crying out for tort reform. So, I think they have to balance their concern for protecting their brand along with their public image, and so that's all I'm saying.
all right. So
I agree. I agree.
I'm going to end with a prediction, and then we'll do final thoughts. I keep trying to close it because I'm so relieved, Bruce, that I survived the epic interview that I was.
You want to go out and tie a few on? Tell the truth.
No, I'm like, man, this is finally done. I survived, and but Bruce, what is your prediction about this Kim.com mega upload lawsuit?
Well, you said you had a prediction, so I was all primed to hear what your prediction was.
I don't know if I have a prediction. I think that the prosecution is not getting a friendly audience in Europe, and I just don't see. I mean, you can argue there were clearly wholesale copyright infringement issues going on. At the same time, there were legitimate uses for that site. But in our streams, all of us here, on every social network we're on, you see constantly people posting copyrighted images, these funny GIF files, the cat pictures, blah, blah, blah. So there is wholesale copyright infringement going on. And the difference, I guess, is that on Google Plus, you can report a post, and on YouTube, you can report a post or a video, and they'll take it down very quickly. And the Viacom lawsuit, the court records showed that they actually were taking things down much faster than legally required, or at least initially taking them down, and then it would be argued about. But I guess the first judge has been removed, or maybe two have been removed. I can't remember, because he said, like, called the U.S. the enemy in this thing or whatever. But is this like a SOPA thing where it's a bunch of BS and he didn't do anything wrong, or is this a thing where this guy did push the envelope? What's your prediction, or what's your thoughts? What are your
I
thoughts,
think there's no
Bruce?
doubt that he pushed the envelope a little bit about it. The only thing that I'm really aware and have observed and would comment on is the fact that the authorities really botched the whole warrant and everything that they did in the beginning, which is put their case at jeopardy. So I don't know that I have a prediction for how it's going to turn out. I would say that yes, there was probably not probably, but definitely some over the line things, but the case seems to have been botched in the beginning. People not doing their due diligence, doing a warrant and serving a warrant and going in there and busting him in a way that crossed some legal lines. So who knows where it's going to go now.
Any final thoughts on this epic, wonderful Google Plus week?
Dan, I want to comment on the same thing. What
I'm going to get to you. Hang on one sec.
Okay, fine.
I'm going to ask you the exact same question. Any final thoughts, Bruce?
No, just enjoyed it. Glad that I got to be able to get in and be a part of a great show.
Awesome. While your thought is fresh, let me skip to Sariq real quick because he's ADD and don't forget because he refuses to take his Ritalin. What do you think about the mega upload thing?
Okay, I think Bruce is absolutely right in terms of the law trying to, I mean, the pressure was there. SOPA was going nowhere. They wanted to do something, and I think the order came from the very top of the U.S. executive branch, whatever. And then they flouted a number of rules or laws in a foreign country or wherever to get this thing down. The priority was to just get this down and grab everything. Now, because of the way it was done, this guy stands a very good chance in the court to go scot-free. Yeah. He has good lawyers. He has money, right? And the thing what we have for our bane as well as for our advantage is our court system. Anybody with a lot of good money can fight against anybody in this country. He will hire a good law firm and do what he can. Now, the funny part is, did this prevent online copyright violations at all? No. I'm telling you, a lot of people probably by default used to go to Mega Upload to watch movies or whatever. Recently, my wife was telling me that, oh, I can watch all the Indian movies now on another site called Youku. It's in China. Go get that. You think they're going to listen to our copyright concerns? No. youkou.com. Almost, it's in Chinese. You can use Google Translate to translate the entire page. You can search for any video, and you can search for Hollywood movies. How are you going to get that down now? What I'm saying is, this whole thing about the Mega Upload, whatever, is going to be in the news till the presidential elections, because the existing administration cannot relax and cannot just say that we're not going to stop this or anything. After the presidential elections, I don't think this guy is going to be convicted. He might be fined, but at the end of the day, we'll be forced to give back everything we took from him. That's my point.
Okay, so yeah, I just let me go to Craig next, but I don't see the difference in what Mega Upload was doing from a legal perspective and what every single website that allows public posting is doing. I almost think it was an unfair targeted hit job pushed by the RIAA or whatever, and they're picking on these guys when, I mean, come on, Facebook, Google+, MySpace, Twitter, not Twitter so much because they're just straight up links, but they're full of copyrighted posts that you see. If you look at your stream, probably every third or fourth post has a picture that's illegally shared, right? So why are they picking on this guy? Because he's a flamboyant personality.
The authorities always go after the big targets. I mean, that's always been the case in any kind of law enforcement. The bottom line is the old media in their power structure are going to kick and scream as they die. They're in the tar pits. They're flailing about. They're going to do whatever they can do to try to survive and to try to hold on to their incumbent advantage that they've had, since they've had the monopolies. And as these things slowly erode, and we talked earlier about the Google Fiber and what's happening in Kansas City, that's the first serious threat to these incumbents. If Google does get that network in place, and if people start, notice he mentioned the high definition video and better audio in these Hangouts. Imagine they give that to all the people in Kansas City, and schools start doing shows, their own TV shows using this technology. There are so many possibilities for generating content and for disintermediating these old Neanderthal networks that it is mind-boggling. And you cannot underestimate that, and you cannot underestimate their fear in losing what they have. They're the big guy on the hill that control everything, and that is going to that whole mountain is going to crumble beneath them. So what would you do in that situation? Of course, that's not a fair question, Dan, because you're not evil and they are.
Well, I mean, I'm in that situation in that I own newspapers, right? So you have to adapt, you know.
Well, but you have small owner-operator businesses where you have a relatively efficient operation, relatively low overhead compared to these huge networks, and you will be able to adapt better than they will be able to adapt, in my opinion. They have huge overheads. They have huge infrastructures that are being threatened, and they can't all of a sudden say, we are going to take that infrastructure and cut it by 1,000-fold. I mean, how can they possibly do that? They've just killed their own business. So
yeah,
so
it's scary because, I mean, the business I'm in is local news. The fear is that when you go to the internet, the revenue is less, especially now you have at Frederick.com, you have a very successful site. And it works. I mean, I'm very impressed with it, as you know. But if you're actually let's say you're in a town of 2,000 people or 3,000 people, and they used to have a newspaper that sold for, 50 cents or whatever. And they used to, they were printing money, not newspapers, right? So they could afford to send the reporter to the courthouse, to write the interesting stories about the legal stuff going on. They could afford to send a reporter to the town council meeting with an audience of 2,000, right? I mean, nobody in California cares about this little town in Georgia or whatever, wherever it is. So when you replace that platform with the internet, it's very difficult to generate the revenue from views and ads on the side, because the way people engage on the internet is different from in print. So the legitimate fear, not from a self-preservation point, but the legitimate fear is, how do you create a model where a little tiny town, like we cover a couple towns, one is like 1,200 people, one's 1,500 people. So we're talking small audiences. How do you create a business model on the internet where you can pay someone for a single post about a town council meeting for a town of 1,000 people, so a potential audience of 1,000 people? How do you create a model on the internet that will allow you to afford to pay someone minimum wage or more to sit through a town council meeting and then go home and write the story?
Dan, you're worried about paying the watchdog. You're worried about hiring a professional watchdog to go in there.
I'm worried about keeping the politicians honest.
That's right. Okay, so you're the watchdog. Okay, so my point is this. You find more efficient ways of doing that. For example, there might be an HD feed coming out of that same meeting that you can monitor, audio and video, that you can monitor from a central location. Mm-hmm. There might be a student that comes in there that has an iPhone or an Android device that is streaming HD video because of the gigabit internet that's available. And they're streaming that, again, live back to your central location. And you're aggregating all this information, and you're streaming it, and you're deciding what to put on your front page of your website and what not to based on what you're seeing. Some of it you're recording and archiving it for later use. And so you're just doing all of the same things, hopefully much more efficiently. And so therefore your advertisers that are supporting all of this don't have to pay as much. And if your advertisers don't have to pay as much, then they can deliver more services to their end users, and everybody ends up winning here. There's no reason why we have to have any losers as far as society at large. The only losers are the big incumbents that have dominated this and that have had monopolies and
With
have been able to milk
overhead,
the heck out of those
huge
monopolies.
overhead. Because they've had the luxury of having huge overhead.
Absolutely, because they've had monopolies.
Exactly.
There were only
It's
three
like TV.
networks.
Yeah.
Forever, there were only three networks, right? NBC, CBS, and ABC.
And really,
right?
locally,
That's
for local news, there still are, or four. I mean, there's ABC, NBC, CBS, and Fox.
Yeah, but I mean, for a million years, there were only three, right? Then there was Fox. Then cable TV came along, CNN, things like that. Now all of a sudden, it's everybody's coming along. And as soon as we're all connected, you mark my words, as soon as we're all connected, and as soon as we all have mobile devices that are effectively connected, you're going to have plenty of watchdogs. Watchdogs are going to be coming out of the woodwork. You're just going to need somebody with a central portal website, like the one we've been talking about, that can take all that information and make it meaningful and put it front and center. So when that story does come out of that stream and somebody's monitoring it, they bring it to your attention, Dan, and Dan puts it right on the homepage for the world to see. Now you've got 1,000 watchdogs, and you've got much more honest government because it's all totally transparent. And if somebody wants to do stuff behind closed doors, you have watchdogs talking about that too.
True,
saying, hey,
but
why is
you know
this guy
what?
behind
There
closed
is
doors?
Here's the problem, Craig, and I don't want to belabor this because this is probably boring to a lot of our tech viewers because it's like a journalism topic. But here's the problem: there is a quality over efficiency in certain things, like especially when you're dealing with potential corruption in local government, or some of these. I mean, some of the counties we've covered and towns we've covered, they've had all sorts of wild, people arrested. There were the town manager, the police chief, DUIs and stuff. In-depth allegations of corruption or mismanagement, whatever. And so you have a situation where, do you really want just a crowdsourced bunch of like Facebook types, offering their uneducated, that's important, but nobody's going to watch CNN if it was just iReports. At some point, you want Wolf Blitzer's take. And I remember watching the debates.
That's where you come in, Dan.
But how do you pay the guy? How do you pay the Pulitzer Prize-winning quality
journalist? You're going to pay somebody. Somebody's going to get paid, but just not as many people. That's my point. You're going to have a bunch of people out there.
Easier said than done. Now, you are a rare. The reason that I am so impressed with what you're doing at Frederick.com is that it's a very useful, popular site, and it's profitable. So everyone wins, right? And so that's why I'm intrigued with that. But that's rare, and I think what you're saying is true, but we're not there yet. I think this is like.
That's right. It's going to be 10 years, Dan.
As far as internet news, we are 1993 right now, still, and they have not yet figured it out because they've been so reluctant to really embrace it for so long.
For the old guys, Dan. For the old guys, there is no figuring it out. They are going to lose. They are going to crumble. They don't want to figure it out. They want to stop it. They don't want it to get there. They don't want to go from here to there.
I hear
what you're saying, but we're going to go from here to there, whether they want it or not.
It's about the talent. I want to see, like I was saying earlier tonight, I was talking about George Will on This Week, or the Meet the Press panel, that sort of thing. People want to watch their content. Leo Laporte does a great job at the Twit Network, and he has talented people, and there's all these different options, but people are searching for opinions that they trust. That's why a lot of folks like to engage with us, because they know, they're the panel here, has opinions they trust, that they're not trying to sell them something and they're not idiots. So, but you got to be able to pay those people, and that it's not quite there yet, but it's coming. I think
Dan,
in the
just
future.
one last thing I'll say, and I'll let it be. Let's say that you're in a hangout, and you can bring 9 people into that hangout to report on things around the town, live, from location. Why is that not more efficient than you dispatching 10 people out to physically go out and cover that and then come back and tell you what they saw?
Yeah, absolutely.
Why is it not more
absolutely
efficient?
It is. You're 100% correct in that scenario. If we're doing the parade, or if we're doing they're blowing a building up, that's
or
an
a committee
building.
meeting, or a lunch meeting between 2 corrupt politicians and the guy sitting in the next booth. I mean, there's a whole bunch of ways you can use this technology.
Yes, true, but there are few and far between. There are brilliant writers or TV people or whatever you want to call them, depending on what media they excel at, brilliant minds that have spent years observing these things, and they have to eat. And to really sit through like I covered the DC City Council when they went through this situation with the DC cabs, where this new upstart Uber was declared illegal, and some of the drivers were arrested and stuff because it was basically the cab organizations were pressuring the taxi cab commission to arrest these people because they were offering a better service for less rates. God forbid you should improve on a failed model, but and so to find someone who can sort through the BS and offer an intelligent opinion for a small community of like 1,000 people, for example, that costs money. And you have to come up with a model that can generate that. You can't crowdsource everything. You can't, look at the healthcare debate, the Obama plan, all the paid opinions on both sides, when really I wish I could, or what does the national debt really mean? Or auditing the Fed, what's that about? These complex issues where you really need someone who's a trusted, not paid by one side or the other, but just a smart person who's been studying it for a long time, and you want to sit down and say, listen, what's the real deal? Is this a scam, or, is this Obama's destroying the healthcare system and I'm going to lose my insurance and I should be scared? Or is this, liberating, is this solving the problem for 30 million uninsured and everyone gets to keep their, or something in between? What's the deal? What's up with Nancy Pelosi saying we have to pass it? But what's the other thing? Both sides, how do you balance that? And you've got to have someone who studies it intensely and knows what they're doing and is smart. And those people cost money. And what does a little town do that 10, 20 years ago, they had their, 25 cent, 50 cent paper, and there was little competition for advertising, so everybody's making big money, and they could afford these talent people.
Even that 25-cent newspaper probably only had a couple of the smart people that you're talking about, and then they had a few younger reporters that they paid a minimal amount to go out and bring stuff. But the smart people are
correct, and they would get a bunch of AP crap, and that's the problem, because now all that AP crap is on Drudge Report and Huffington Post the day before. But
yeah.
the thing is, what do you do? How do you create a model where there's only 1,000 people interested in the website, and you're trying to pay someone? It costs you, for a story, for me, it costs anywhere from a low of $25 to a high of about $100 for a single story to get someone to cover the council meeting or the court case or whatever. There's no way in hell that any web post on a site that is only interesting to 1,000 people locally is going to generate even 1% of $25 to $100. And we should wrap this up. Give me the final argument against what I'm saying. Let's roll out here.
You can't monetize it that way. But we've already talked about how you monetize it.
But newspapers did. Newspapers
Some of
did,
the real,
and what's going
some
to
of the
replace
real
that?
small communities, Dan, you might lose money on it. Simple as that. What
But
you
how do you
might have to
protect the
do-
people from corrupt politicians?
Well, what you might have to do is lose a little money on those smaller jurisdictions and make it up on the neighboring larger jurisdictions, and that way you justify the network because you got a network of these sites, right?
Right.
And so the smaller one, yes, you might lose a little money on, but again, you have to concentrate on doing it all absolutely as efficiently as possible. And I'm not saying do a lousy job at it. I'm not saying that at all. Do a great job, but do it as efficiently as possible and roll with the times and adopt new technologies and new ways that make it even more efficient all the time. And that's how you do it. And that's what the old incumbents are not going to do. And so somebody new has to step into that space and do it.
What's
And that's
exciting
you.
is that, you know, as we in our private back end conversations, we're trying to come up with some kind of hybrid model to a certain degree for some of these smaller markets, and I'm excited about that because, frankly, we may actually conquer this issue. But that is my
I think
fear,
you will.
Craig.
I think you will.
You have a tremendous success in what you're doing, and with the new approach, and I am embracing that. At the same time, you know, we're successful with the older approach because we offer original, unique content that's only available in our album format in the print product or the online version of that print product. We don't break it out in singles. We produce the album, so all the advertisers are protected. So if we can kind of work on this, it'll be exciting to see if we can conquer this issue because it is, I mean, you will admit it is a legitimate issue, and I got to shut up after this. It's a legitimate issue. What do you do with a little tiny town that to try to keep the politicians honest? And it's
Absolutely.
it's hard because these folks are American citizens and they deserve to be protected, and they used to be, you know, I mean, not protected, but at least there was a watchdog voice in the local newspaper, and it used to be profitable, and now it may be going out of business. So we have to figure out a way to do that. Pam, and then let's go to Alan.
I was just going to say, now this is not making money, but you know, Facebook, our little town here, we have a pseudo watchdog group, you know, that goes to all the city council meetings and you know, post stuff. It's called the Menifee Buzz and all that stuff. And these people are complete volunteers. And we do have local advertisers and stuff like that. I don't think they're making any money. But, you know, there are ways to do that. But the towns have to make the effort, you know. If you really want to keep everyone informed, then the town kind of has to rally together, I think, and I think that sentiment is kind of rare around, you know, nowadays.
The problem is that in Middletown, Virginia, for example, sometimes my reporter is the only person at the town council meeting. Nobody cares. Nobody has time. And I mean, literally the only person there, right? So we write it up, and sometimes we'll have like a storm of controversy after stuff, you know, that she writes. Like the crazy things they do. At one point, like the mayor and like 2 or 3 others resigned en masse, and it was just insane stuff.
But Dan, they don't have to go because you pay the reporter to go for them.
But if I was just on the web,
read the report.
If I was just on the web, I would make 7 cents from that post. For the you know, 2,000 people who read it.
Well, if you were just on the web, you wouldn't have done it.
I wouldn't have had the money to pay for it.
Right. But I'm saying that the rest of the town doesn't go to the city council meeting because you pay the reporter to go, and they can just sit at home with their coffee and read her report.
And they don't
the
have
next
the time
day,
or the
and then they can
interest.
freak out and all that stuff and reverse whatever decision was made the night before.
But
That's
I
why
have a
they don't
reporter who
go.
goes to every meeting and has studied them for years and can offer perspective and insight. And she's not, you know, she's not a lobbyist or special interest person.
But Dan, Pam does make an interesting point in that what you're saying is that your reporter goes because they don't go. What she's saying is it's possible that they're not going because your reporter's going. So
that's right.
So
your reporter's doing such a good. Yep.
If your reporter stopped going, maybe some of them would start going and would start reporting back via the Facebook page and so on. So we don't know, but the point is, I think it's important to have a central location for the town to report and to exchange and to comment all this information, whether that be on Facebook or a local portal website like we've talked about doing. They need to have some central place on the internet that they can all interact and comment and share information, and there's no reason why you shouldn't facilitate that. And
are you more interested, Craig? Are you more interested in what CNN, MSNBC, or Fox News, or a local TV anchor, or a brilliant writer in the Washington Post or the New York Times who's making six figures thinks about a subject, or do you ignore all that and immediately go to the CNN iReport?
I don't do any of that. I don't go to the CNN iReport or any of that. I don't consume. I consume zero mainstream media content because I'm convinced that they all have agendas and that I can't trust most of what they say.
When you have, I mean, you look in D.C. You have had immense corruption going on. Unbelievable corruption. Chicago, places like that.
The mayor was convicted of drugs.
The government is corrupt from the top down, Dan. The government is growing and expanding.
You're making my argument.
Our job. The media corporations aren't.
Our job, and then let's go to Alan, and then Alan's back. Thank God. Our job.
Why, you think I'm going to agree with you, Dan?
I don't care as long as you take off so I can, pee. But the whole thing is this. I agree that there's a lot of value to these iReport type things, and they're awesome. But there's no substitute
Dan,
for a trained, skilled, intelligent, corporate knowledge guy or woman to cover a meeting over and over again.
Dan, you didn't let me answer your question. Let me answer your question first. Okay, you asked, where I get my news or what I do is I follow people on Twitter direct, people that I want information from, like Alan, like you, like whoever, like Leo Laporte, whoever. I follow them and I get their information. If I don't like what they're posting over a period of time, I unfollow them. So that's how I tune my Twitter feed. I get all of my news direct from the people that I want it from. Now, some people I get that are reporting on things like Leo Laporte, right? He doesn't generate any news. He reports on stuff, but he does do a lot of interviews and things like that. Okay, so these are the people where I get my information from. None of it is from what we would call mainstream media. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay, I'm just saying that and I'll shut up after this and throw it to Alan. You can talk about what you want. The problem is the quote-unquote mainstream media, or the old model, the legacy model, whatever you want to call it, it generated enough revenue to hire experienced reporters who would cover a beat and try to keep the politicians honest. And in an environment where there is much to be gained financially by being able to game and corrupt the system, if you remove that watchdog who can speak with the voice of authority and has the footprints that the mainstream media has, as I have, then you are just asking for people to just, it's the Wild West again, because all these sites are going to go out of business, and you're just asking for trouble, and you're asking for the politician, the crooks that will be able to take over.
I think that's
let's go to Alan, and you can continue this.
I think that's a nice, optimistic point of view. The problem is that, at some point, the mainstream media are also crooks. They're also the ones that have their agendas. They're also the ones who are in bed with the crooked politicians. So you're not seeing the real watchdogs. And, I mean, you can look at Tammany Hall in New York, and they were backed by, Boss Tweed was backed by, I believe it was the Herald, but somebody could, actually correct me on that point. Nowadays, you get news organizations, and I'm not going to name names, but there are certainly news organizations that are accused of being in the pocket of one political party or the other to the point where they're spewing the exact same talking points at the same time. So, you got to wonder, are you really gaining anything? And, I think there's a place for true independent journalism, and I think there's a place for real hard-hitting journalism, but I don't think you necessarily get that with mainstream media.
I gotta jump in real quick, and then I gotta roll out for just briefly. On that note, clearly MSNBC, Fox News came in with, the head of it is Roger Ailes, who is a former Reagan campaign manager or strategist, and they're clearly conservative, although their general news with Shepard Smith is pretty moderate, and he may actually be left of center. I think he is. Fox and Friends in the morning is clearly right-wing, propaganda, and their evening shows vary dramatically. Some aren't. Bill O'Reilly is hard to pigeonhole now because he's sort of moderated a bit, I guess. He's sort of like, I don't know what you want to call it, but MSNBC is clearly left of center, and CNN has done a middle of the road, and Jeff Jarvis posted about this because the CNN president resigned or announced his upcoming resignation today. But one of the commenters on there is that there is no fixing CNN, quote unquote fixing, because CNN makes their money. They're very profitable. Only, I think, 5 or 10% or less of their profit actually comes from the U.S. domestic cable channel. They are in hotels, airports all over the world. CNN International, they're very profitable, even though they have dismal ratings in the U.S. because a lot of folks who watch cable news when there's not a hot story going on will gravitate toward a channel that vindicates and amplifies their personal point of view. When the Arab, when Gaddafi was getting killed, or the Arab Spring, when a big news story is going on, Hurricane Katrina, then you gravitate toward CNN because, frankly, they're actually real journalism and have reporters out there, whereas the other stations are better at having talking heads analyzing stuff. When you actually have a big event going on, you want the real reporters in the field. And so CNN explodes then. But there just, frankly, hasn't been a lot of news going on. So they've had a dismal year, and so their head's leaving. But this guy said that they'll never change because their money comes from not pissing anybody off. So Hilton Hotel, the Heathrow Airport is very comfortable having CNN up there because they're not going to have to deal with complaints about someone outraged at some crazy thing that either a left or right-wing commentator said. So let me throw it back to Alan, who's now frozen, apparently. Or you're back. Go ahead.
I missed the last half of what you said, but no, I don't know. There's not much to respond to that, I guess. So what did you guys cover while I was gone?
Well, there was a topic that Dan wanted to talk about, and then you left, and I have no idea if he still wants to talk about that or not. But
I think that's better saved for next week because it'll keep.
We basically talked about Mac buying a computer, and we talked about Mega Upload and
stuff. See how that plays out. Yeah.
Stuff like that, and I think that's about it. Yep, that's all we talked about.
Okay, so that was pretty a nice, lively evening, I'm sure.
I still think the most exciting thing of all were two things: were the interview and coupled with the Google Fiber. So I hope my enthusiasm for Google Fiber and where that's headed is warranted, because we need that. I mean, that this country is going to be great.
We need
I think high-speed internet.
My concern, I've got a number of concerns. They didn't take a stand on net neutrality. anywhere that I've seen. They haven't taken a stand on net neutrality when it's applied to this service. So I'm worried they're going to weasel through that in some way. I'm not convinced.
Wait, Alan.
Well, wait.
Sorry,
yeah,
sorry.
they did talk about no throttling.
Wait, I just want to ask real quick. Does that mean that these people who agree to use the Google Fiber have to abide by Google's terms of service? Is that what you're saying?
No, I mean, they've got to abide by Google's terms of service for Google Fiber regardless, same as we do for our services.
Well,
what do you mean by they didn't take a stand on net neutrality?
Yeah,
what do you mean by that?
Yeah, because my internet provider does not say I can't access adult content, for example.
Net neutrality basically boils down to the network provider will not interfere in either your choices of what you want to receive or the transmitting place's determination of what they want to deliver to you. So, for example, let's use Netflix as an example. Netflix is essentially competing with your local cable company.
Yes.
Can we agree on that? Let's start with that.
Yes.
Cable companies have basically come out and said that they want to charge Netflix for the right to be able to send you data.
Yep.
And they want to be able, if they so choose, to slow down those transmissions at their discretion.
Yes.
Now, you can argue, the cable companies argue a number of things. First of all, they argue that since they're the ones providing the pipe, they need to be able to manage that pipe correctly in order to make sure everyone gets the correct quality of service. And one way that they can help manage that is to charge additional for priority access. So Netflix, for example, they might say, look, you pay X amount, we will make sure that your packets get delivered to your customers in a timely fashion. Otherwise, we just, we don't have enough infrastructure to do that for everybody.
But Alan, I think they addressed that.
They didn't. Where did
I thought they did.
They said there were no network caps. Which
they
is
said basically that we're going to get a gigabyte up and a gigabyte down, no caps. Great. They didn't say no throttling, but they certainly imply that. My gosh, when they say you're getting those speeds, that it certainly implied that there isn't going to be any throttling.
Well, but okay, let me turn this around. One of the things they kept saying, they said it over and over and over, is we can't wait to see what you do with this service. Okay?
Yeah.
When we were in the dial-up age, and they showed this in all of their graphics, in the dial-up age, it was difficult and annoying to stream video.
Mm-hmm.
Even in the early high bandwidth days, it was difficult and annoying to stream video because there just wasn't enough bandwidth.
Yeah.
What if I came up with a service that will use that will use a gigabit? It will use up all of your available bandwidth.
Yeah.
And what if everyone on your block uses that service?
That's a good question, is what is the overall capacity of this system? We don't know that, right?
We don't know that. And what cable companies have been saying is that they built their infrastructure based on the assumption that they're not going to have everybody using the full allocation of bandwidth.
But I can tell you this right now, Alan. If what you're saying is true, if it's possible that we're not going to each get a gigabit internet.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying we will each get a gigabit.
That we can't use it simultaneously, that all of us in the neighborhood can't use it simultaneously. If that's true, then basically the whole premise of their whole presentation was based on the fact that our internet connection is slowing us down. They showed that graph with Moore's law, with the storage, and the internet is the thing that's slowing us down. So their whole presentation is based on, we want to give you more than you need. We want to give you more, we want to future-proof you. We want to give you more than you need. And if it turns out that they really can't deliver what they're saying they're going to deliver, which is what a shared line type of situation like we have with cable modems now, is what you're talking about. If that's the case, then as far as I'm concerned, the whole presentation was a total fraud.
That could be. And
Total
that's what we're going
fraud.
to find.
Total smoke and mirrors, total Barnum and Bailey fraud. And I hope that's not the case. I hope Google is not that evil.
See, but here, and I don't think they're intending to be. What I'm kind of wondering and worried about is if they're going into it with the best intentions, but not with the best management strategy. So, for example, I could cook up something that, I could cook up, one of the examples they gave was video edit. It was video uploads and downloads.
Yep.
And it was taking a couple of minutes to upload a video. What if I created a service that lets you edit high definition video stored in the cloud in real time? So that would be tremendously bandwidth intensive.
Absolutely.
And they're saying that's the kind of stuff that they want to do, because that's the kind of stuff that they're doing.
If I was there and could ask one question, the question I would have asked is, okay, let's say I have a 15-minute long 1080p video that is a .mov file that's somewhat compressed, but not compressed like it is on YouTube, right? Let's say it's a 15-minute video, and let's say it's 4 gigs, okay, is the file size. And I upload that video to my cloud storage on the Google Cloud.
Yeah, that'll take a whole 4 seconds.
Now, can I then
maybe
stream that to 2 of my televisions in the house and watch it streaming at the same time?
Let me get to that one in a second, actually, because that's a different question. But let me get to that one in a second.
And will it be compressed when it's streamed down, or will it play uncompressed?
My guess is that their answer is, why would you send it up into the cloud when you could when you're storing it locally on your massive file server?
I don't have enough space. I don't have enough space on my MacBook Air.
Not on your MacBook Air, on the file server that they're giving you as part of this package.
I guess I could have it there, but what if that's full?
Well, if that's full, then your terabit file storage is also probably full.
I don't know. I mean, I'm just saying. But I mean, these are good problems to have, I think. But
they are good problems, and they're good questions. I think what it really, to me, boils down to is what's going to happen when. Well, it's twofold on this front. It's what kind of network management are they going to have in place in order to make sure that they're properly allocating resources? Because either they don't have it and they're kind of hoping that the network will manage itself somehow, or they're hoping that they can sneak in non-net neutrality. Because the question is going to be, what happens when someone creates that video editing service that needs gigabit downstream and upstream? And is Google going to let them do it, or are they going to start demanding
and a
something
bunch
else?
of people want to use it?
Right.
Well, I think it would be, and I've been asking for this for a year since we've been on this Google Plus thing, but I'll ask one more time. I think it would be great for you and Dan to put together a panel of people that have expertise in this area, that have some experience with like rolling out networks and rolling out cable, and maybe not necessarily fiber, but all what needs to be done to put together something like this.
Craig, I've talked to some of these people, and what all of them say is network neutrality and network management are in some ways in conflict with each other. And if you don't address the network management part, you're going to have problems.
Well, yeah, so this is the question I would love to hear answered. And this is why I think it would be cool for you all to do a live show and do this. And I don't need to be included, I'll just watch, but I would love to see what these people have to say about, okay, first of all, what backbone needs to be coming into Kansas City? How big is that backbone? And is it there? Does it exist? And if that backbone is big enough, how do we then split it and run it into these neighborhoods? What infrastructure do we need to do that? What are the costs associated with this? How many people live in those two cities, those twin cities there, that are getting this service? And if let's say only 20% of them subscribe to the service, is there going to be enough money to sustain this?
Well, clearly,
So
Google,
is it even viable to do it?
Google seems to think that it's viable to do with just 10%.
Well, then but my point is, this is what I'd like to hear some experts weigh in on this, not Google, but some independent experts take a look at this and really dig in deep and see how viable this is for Kansas City and therefore by extension for other metropolitan areas to do it. This is the question I've been looking for the answer for a long time. And of course, not only wired, they were talking about wired now, but also wireless infrastructure and what it would take. Because this country has a big problem with this, in my opinion.
We do. But, I mean, the question also is here they've deployed it in an urban environment, a pretty rich, a pretty decent urban environment as well.
When you say decent, what do you mean by decent?
Are they including wireless?
No, not so far as I know.
What do you mean by including wireless?
I think she means like the router, for it to be able to.
Pam,
No, wireless in the house, yes.
Pam.
Wireless in the house, yes. I thought you
we
meant
can't hear you.
wireless in the city.
Pam, we can't hear you still.
Sorry. Now you can hear me?
Now we can hear
Yes.
you.
Go ahead,
Okay.
Pam.
I mean wireless in the city. I mean, are they blanketing Kansas City with internet access for everybody at all times?
I don't believe so.
No, they said they're only giving it to like police, schools, fire departments, libraries, all of those government agencies. They're all getting it for free.
And those are not Wi-Fi connected. I think what Pam is asking, and I'm sorry, tell
They're
me if I'm putting
getting
words in your mouth.
fiber,
What
fiber.
What a lot of cable companies do, since they don't own cell phone companies like Verizon does, what a lot of them are doing are setting up Wi-Fi hotspots around their service areas.
Well, actually downtown Temecula, which is just down the road from us, they have an area called Old Town where the city hall is, and that whole downtown area is all one big hotspot. So that's what I was talking about.
Who's running
We
that
have it in
hotspot?
downtown. We have it in downtown Frederick too, but it's not very fast. I can tell you that.
I'm not sure, Alan, because I haven't used it because I've only had my phone downtown. So, and I would access my data from my phone. I wasn't on Wi-Fi.
Right.
But I can find out for next week.
I would be curious, either for next week or out of band. My guess is that it's the cable company that's providing it, because a lot of cable companies are doing so.
Well, we are Verizon. We are all Verizon, and Temecula got 4G before anywhere else around here. So it could be Verizon. But I'll check.
I would guess, and this is purely a guess, that
Verizon would never do anything like that for free. Yes, I know.
Right. Well, and the reason why Verizon wouldn't is because they have this alternate wireless service.
Yeah, but
And-
they also have the FiOS here.
Right.
So just I'll find out.
No, I'm curious. I mean, I don't know, but I'm curious.
We have a system that the city put in, and I don't know who's behind it, who powers it or whatever, but I can tell you it's all right for checking email and basic things, but it's not very fast.
Well, that's all they really want you to be able to do on it. It's not like they want you to be able to run a Hangout from the park.
Yeah, I can't join a Hangout with it, absolutely.
So net neutrality is one of the issues that I've got. Google's long-term commitment to the fiber, I don't know. We'll see. I can argue both sides of that. Both sides of that. And I have my doubts about what their long-term commitment is, really.
But I mean, wouldn't it be valuable information for us to have some independent information, even if it's rough estimates, as to what this sort of thing would cost? And of course, they also implied in their whole demonstration and all that the costs of doing all of these things are going down. So as time goes by, it's going to get even cheaper to do these things.
They claim that, but it's also not clear what concessions they got to do it at Kansas City. So, for example, somewhere I read, I think it was in the article that Streak posted earlier, that it was costing them $450 for each house they passed. So, without hooking up to a house, it cost them $450 a house. Is that higher or lower than it costs a cable or phone company to do it? And I don't know. But what concessions did they get from the power company to do the installation in their region on the poles? What company, what concessions did the two cities give? We don't know that.
So what we need to try to find out is what would it cost under typical circumstances without concessions.
But here's the thing, there is no such thing as typical circumstances. Because currently the way our infrastructure the way our infrastructure is updated currently is on a municipality by municipality basis. So every single installation, every single village, town, city, whatever, negotiates its deals separately with whoever is running the
so if I could talk my little town here of Thurmont, Maryland, if I could talk them into it, and if there's fiber anywhere near here, I don't even know that answer that question yet. But let's say there is fiber going up Route 15 up to Gettysburg or something, and so it runs right by here. Let's assume that. And so if I could talk them into somehow tapping into that and running fiber throughout this community, that's something that the town of Thurmont here could just do.
Maybe. And it's not so much that the town does it, it's that whoever's coming in to do it would negotiate with the town for the franchise.
Because this town would be a good example, because this town, we have our own electric company, our own water. I pay the town for my electricity, and I pay the town for my water.
Okay, so you're municipal utilities.
Yeah, they're doing everything. So they might be able to cut to the chase and do it quicker than somebody else.
Well,
if fiber's anywhere near here,
they might. But it's also a question of what's their current deal with the current cable franchise, Comcast.
Comcast, yeah, exactly.
So they may have a deal with Comcast, an agreement, that they're not going to get into the television business. That they may have given Comcast that exclusive right.
Yeah.
A lot of it does come down to what the local municipalities have negotiated.
Yeah. I'm going to look into that.
And there's the third thing. Oh, the third thing that rubs me the wrong way about Google Fiber is that they talk about it in terms of, we can't wait to see what you do with this. We're delivering revolutionary things. And the television service they're providing, I just froze again.
And not at a good time.
I wonder what he was going towards.
Yeah, I just want to hear what he was going to say about the television service.
Yeah, it's bringing television in. I don't like that they're making a top box, but
I thought it looked pretty cool. I mean, I probably wouldn't get it. I would probably just get the straight internet connection. But that's just me because I don't watch television. But
me neither.
It's been so long since I've watched it. I cut the cord 6 years ago that I don't know if I'd know how to act if I had it hooked up. Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah.
I wanted to hear what he was going to say. Oh, now we lost him completely. He'll probably come back. He's got to finish that thought.
We should probably wrap up the broadcast version as I
Right, let Alan finish his thought.
Yeah, Alan, finish your thought, and let's wrap up the broadcast version.
Yeah, we were
right. Sorry, I have no idea why I froze that time. Basically, they were talking about how it's revolutionary, but the television service they're providing really looks an awful lot like the television service everybody else is providing these days. There's nothing new, special, or different about it.
Whose fault is that? Isn't that the cable providers? I mean, like the
No,
content.
I mean this is Google saying we're going to be providing revolutionary stuff, and the television service they're providing is not revolutionary at all.
There's only so much they can do because they're, at the mercy of HBO, at the mercy of like MTV, stuff like that, aren't they?
Well, we
Well,
don't know
didn't the
that,
search-
Alan. We don't know.
But wasn't the search pretty good, Alan? Wasn't the search pretty good? And the fact that you can record 5 things simultaneously, that's pretty
Big one.
powerful.
No, I mean, but that's not revolutionarily different. That's a minor evolutionary change.
Alan,
I know
you're
my
focusing
sister-
on the incremental addition of broadcast of a limited number of broadcast options, in addition to the gigabit Ethernet, which is or fiber. It's huge.
Right. So here we have a
The
revolution.
TV's an add-on.
Here we have a revolutionary data thing, and an absolutely non-revolutionary television for a product that they were billing as revolutionary in every way.
They got everything they could get. There are fence sitters. I'm sure if they could have gotten Disney, they would have gotten
I'm not,
right.
Here's the thing.
What-
I'm not talking about
It's
what
not
channels they did
voluntary.
or didn't get.
What did you want to see the TV do that you didn't? That would have been more exciting for you?
I would have liked the ability to say, oh, wait a minute, we're now 10 minutes into a show and I forgot to record from the beginning. I want to watch from the beginning.
They have a DVR option.
I think you can do that.
No, that's DVR. That's different. That requires me to have remembered to set it ahead of time.
Well, no, I'm sure you'll be able to go back.
I'm not.
I'm sure you.
Sounds like you
Well-
want a permanent DVR.
Yes.
To run 24/7.
Even my
Yes.
dad's. Even
I
my
want-
dad's system has that, where you can go back a certain amount of time.
But only if you're actually already set on that channel. If you didn't tune to that channel, if someone calls you up, let's give an example. Let's say that Dan suddenly, finds himself that he was on the 7 o'clock news. Okay, he and it's now 7:10. He calls up his relatives and says, "Hey, I'm going to be on the news tonight. I was just on the news." Well, if you were just on the news, then nobody saw it. Whereas in an advanced system like this, everyone could suddenly turn on the 7 o'clock news and go back to 7 o'clock.
That happens to me. I'm not kidding.
I think-
I
I
don't
know
have
it
a
happens to you. It
DVR.
happens to a lot of people.
I don't have a
I
DVR,
think
and I'm
that-
on the news. I call my parents and I say, "Can you record it on your VHS tape?"
I think
or
they'll
whatever?"
include that,
And I'll-
Alan. My
I
guess
don't.
is they'll.
I don't think they'll include it because, and the reason why I don't think they'll include it is because they put the DVR in your house as opposed to putting the DVR on their servers.
And the content providers will not allow that.
So
So what can they do? So
What can they do? They're Google. What can they do about anything?
But don't you think they're gonna
Here's the thing.
hopefully
Here-
force the hand of the content providers?
Well, here's what they could have done.
They've-
They could have
They've
gone to
got
the
to get
content
enough
providers.
uptake.
They could have gone to the content providers and say, "Look, we want to do on demand for every single one of your shows."
And when they say no,
And they say, "Okay, fine, we'll cut you out."
and that's what some of them, I believe, is
But
done.
see, what they've got to do, Alan, is they've got to get enough penetration first before they can really start leaning on
Well,
these
here's the
people.
thing. We'll say we'll give you video on demand for every single one of your shows for 2 months, 6 months, whatever, and we'll give you detailed stats on exactly how many people are watching each one, for how long. Basically, we're going to give you Google Analytics for your shows, which is something they can't get currently because there's almost no back channel in a cable
Well,
system.
it's something they might not really want either. They might not want to hear the truth.
No,
you
they
can't
want it.
handle the truth, Mr. Advertiser. Nobody's watching your show.
They want it because they want to be able to set detailed pricing.
Yeah.
They want to know exactly how much it costs them.
I think once they get enough penetration, Alan, I think they're going to start flexing their muscles and doing more and more with this. And I think you're also going to see more locally generated content that's going to start threatening these incumbents even more. And I think there's going to be a lot of things that are going to be rearing their head in this network that are going to threaten the established boys. So I think Google has to get momentum first, though, before they can do that.
Once they get the content providers and all these shows and stuff online, then yes, they can do revolutionary things. But until they start participating, they are limited.
I don't know. I mean, to me, it seems like they're saying, "Hey, we want to see what everyone else is going to do revolutionary, but we're not going to do anything revolutionary."
Sounds like
on this
Apple.
Well, but my God, getting the gigabit to a lot of people is a pretty damn revolutionary start.
Definitely. I think
Not really.
so.
Every other country is doing it.
What?
But yeah,
That was
but
the point of their argument.
But I'm talking about revolutionary for the U.S., not for these 12 other countries that are ahead of us. I'm not talking about them. But how many of those are really running gigabit internet? They're not
I
running
honestly
gigabit.
don't know, but some of them certainly are.
I don't think most of them are, though. But it's a lot faster than what we have. So we all agree?
Yeah, we all agree. And I need to wrap up.
All right, so
there's Dan.
Any final thoughts?
We've been having final thoughts for the last 2
I know, I'm
hours.
just trying to shut this thing down. My God. Let me finish with Alan. Michael, final thoughts on this epic, wonderful Google Plus week.
It's just been awesome, having Vic, all these conversations that we've been having. It's all awesome.
And we appreciate you joining our crew here. You're
No
a
problem.
wonderful addition.
I love it.
Final thoughts, Craig Shipp.
You're all invited to Frederick Week that is 10 a.m. every Friday morning. So you can start your Google Plus day with Frederick Week.
That's Eastern time.
That's right.
And that was an
end
awkward
it off-
yawning time. I apologize.
Yeah,
I'm tired.
and end it off with the world famous, now internationally famous Google Plus Week,
Indeed.
hosted by Dan McDermott at 8 p.m. USA Eastern Time.
And Anthony is here. Anthony, I'm getting ready to shut the formal thing down, and we can hang out privately. But any thoughts on whatever tonight before we throw it to Alan for the close for the broadcast?
I don't know. I did a 3-hour trip to the cabin. Got there at 11, left at 7:30, and now I'm back. So I have been gone the entire day.
And you have a
You
whole
didn't
new
miss
view of your cam. There's no beer bottles.
You have
in the
great.
background.
You've got a great interview to watch.
Yes, I'm sure that I do. I look forward to viewing that.
It was fantastic. And did you watch the Google Fiber presentation yesterday?
No, I did not.
You talking about that
You-
video, the YouTube video that they did?
That is a must watch. The hour-plus video. Yeah, the whole presentation.
Where is that available? Because I saw that.
It's on my blog. If you can't find it, it's on my blog.
Do a search for Google Fiber. You can't miss
Go,
it.
go to craigship.com and click through to my blog.
Okay. All right, that's intuitive. All
Well,
right.
if it's something real important, like it has to do with Dan McDermott, it's in my blog.
I appreciate that, Craig. I know you got my back. Alan Furstenberg, thank you so much again for.
Dan, thank you. Man, that was a trip tonight.
That was awesome. I was very nervous, and I think we kind of pulled it off, despite the strong criticism from Craig Shipp. Probably deserved in that it wasn't hard hitting enough, but maybe not. I don't know. I mean, it was just I thought it was appropriate, and we asked a bunch of questions that people presented based on if we thought they, we had to prioritize what we thought would work. So, but it was great, and I appreciate you, Alan, doing it with me, and I thought it was a lot of fun. It was
Deeply honored
interesting.
that I could help you with it because
It was great. This was awesome. So anyway, I want to thank the folks for watching, and this was great. So we appreciate it, and we will, check this out and any comments we missed. But I'm exhausted. I didn't get my nap that I usually get, and I'm ready to call it a night. So y'all hang out here in the private hangout, and for those watching, I appreciate you doing so, and have an absolutely wonderful Google Plus week.